Feeling. All right, yeah.
Let's start with a roll call if we could.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Select Committee on Legislative Facilities, Technology and Process, September 2nd, 2026. Senator Landon.
Excused. I think he's zooming in, or he's on his way to DuBois, so I'm not sure how he's going to accomplish it, but he's zooming in. Excused.
Senator Rothfuss.
Here.
Representative Chestick.
Here.
Representative Larson, JT.
Here.
Co-Chairman Weber.
I know she asked for the link. She's certainly excused. I'm sure she'll be here.
And Chairman Case.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Let's start with the review of committee history and future role. Start with Wendy Matz, is what the list says, but who's going to go first? Anthony, you're welcome.
I'll kick us off, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Anthony Serra, Legislative Service Office. Just real quick, I thought I'd do a couple of introduction of new staff, if you don't mind.
Please do.
We have Carrie Lockwood. She's with us this morning. She's our new Visitor Services Coordinator. And obviously she is impacted quite a bit by and involved in the facilities aspect of what we'll talk about today. So she is here. And then James Wassinger. Oh, he's right behind me. He's our newest IT staff member as well. So I just wanted to introduce a couple new faces here this morning.
We had a new attorney that poked his head in earlier, but he's, yeah, he was here for a minute ago. Okay, back to you, Anthony.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, as you know, and I think as most of the committee knows, the Management Council in the spring tasked your committee with looking at some of the history of what this committee has done, asked you to take a look at how the committee has changed over time and maybe some changes that could be made in the future as we look at those changes that will go in more depth. As you know, Mr. Chairman, this committee doesn't meet too much, but it is very active and it has been over the years. And it has had a tremendous impact on the operations of the legislature. A lot of the committee's work is seen by the public, but a lot of the work that you guys have done over the years is a lot of behind the scenes work as well that you don't see. So we're hoping to cover some of that with you today. And then obviously it will be up to the committee to decide if they want to recommend any changes to the structure of this committee and what it studies. The committee itself is created by Management Council. It is not a statutory committee, and you don't have the ability to sponsor legislation. So just a little bit of background information on that. Everything that you do either today or what you've done in the past has traditionally gone to Management Council as a recommendation, and then Management Council decides what to do with that recommendation. The committee has changed over the years. Obviously today it's called the Facilities, Technology and Process, but over the years, if you go back to 2001, and Wendy reminded me last night and this morning that there was actually a committee called the Select Committee on the Legislature. So it goes back even further than that. But these three kind of jurisdictions, the Facilities, Technology and Process in the past had been split up into different committees. So in 2001, 2002, you had your Select Committee on Legislative Facilities, and I am referring to the memo that was included in the meeting materials. And then in 03 to 08, the Facilities, Technology and Process were actually three different committees. And then from 09 to 16, Technology and Process were combined with Facilities being its own committee. And then in 2017 to the present, Management Council actually put all three of these together to make up the Select Committee on Legislative Facilities, Technology and Process. Some major undertakings, really what has changed with this committee, and Wendy's going to get into this a little bit more, is the facilities aspect of this committee. In the past, really before the capital building restoration oversight group, and now what's the governance group, this committee would really oversee some major facilities projects in the legislative spaces. And some examples just briefly of that where this committee oversaw, for example, the new chamber desks in the early 2000s. The skylights were redone over the House and Senate chambers. What's now the JAC room, the old 302 room. This committee, the facilities committee, oversaw those projects as well. And so they obviously had a much more active role when there were piecemeal projects going on in the building. When the capital renovation project was done, the goal of that project was to look at this facility more as a whole. And so a lot of that has now gone to that subcommittee on wayfinding and exhibits, and then the new committee that Wendy will talk to you about here briefly later this morning. This committee was also responsible for a lot of legislative space planning, furnishings in the legislative spaces, historic preservation, artwork. And so, like I said, Wendy will get into that a little bit more here. Where your committee has been a lot more active in most recent history is obviously in the technology and process realm. Most recently, this committee oversaw the development of the real-time roll call votes webpage that is being used heavily during the legislative session. And all of that was run through this committee and created by this committee. Obviously, you'll see on our agenda today, there continues to be some role with this committee related to technology. You will approve the new laptops for legislators when the new legislature comes in next year. You'll set the buyback price that Jordan will go over with you here later this morning on the old laptops. You've obviously been heavily involved in the study of electronic voting, which we'll talk about more this morning as well. Our whole SharePoint environment, and when we moved to the cloud, this committee oversaw that as well. You've obviously been instrumental in creating more public access through our website. And really now you can pretty much do anything online to follow the legislative process that you can do here in the building, and this committee has been instrumental in that as well. You, as you know, Mr. Chairman, you work heavily with the public. A lot of the ideas that this committee has taken up and actually implemented have come from the public. And so it's a very active committee in that realm as well. So that kind of gives you an overview of the history of this committee. Jumping to the bottom of this memo, really, as Wendy talks more about the facilities aspect, and then Jamie's here as well today. As you know, he's been involved for many, many years in the technology aspect of the committee. Some things to just keep in mind and some recommendations that you may want to consider for management council. Obviously, the committee could continue in its current form with the facilities, technology, and process subject matter, continue in a modified scope, and perhaps like I mentioned, considering perhaps with less involvement in the facilities, perhaps maybe this committee just continues to focus on technology and process, and then obviously just continuing the committee altogether. So that just kind of gives you a history. And before we kick it over to Wendy, I'll stand for any questions.
I don't think my microphone was on. Any questions from the online group? Thank you. Welcome, Senator Landon. Safe travels today. Okay, let's go ahead and maybe go to Ms. Mattson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was a great walk down memory lane. And and actually, I think everything that Anthony just explained in the history of this committee, it just shows how much work and what a testament it is to the hard work of the committee members and recognizing all of those needs over the years. And I was reminded last night as Anthony and Jamie and I were discussing it that select committee on the legislature truly would have been the precursor to all of this. And it was chaired by Dr. Tipton and Senator Kinnison. And some of the things that we'll talk about in a minute on electronic voting, that was back in the early days of the web as well. So putting everything up for the public on a website was pretty revolutionary at that time too. So if you get a chance, go back and look in the 2001, 2002 minutes on the select committee on the legislature, because they're a hoot to read about how far the institution has come. I will first, before we get into some electronic voting history, I just did want to mention, and Senator Landon may want to weigh in here as well, this committee actually led and first started raising the alarm bells about the issues going on in the Capitol facility proper. So as Anthony mentioned, you did a number of piecemeal projects that were just kind of, we could look at it in hindsight and it might be kind of like, baling wire and duct tape trying to hold this building together. But really it was this committee who started talking about putting money away to save for a massive restoration that occurred from 2015 to 2019, and also raised a lot of the life safety issues, the building systems issues, leaking plumbing, electrical system problems, being able to operate a modern legislative systems. What we have now with AV was led by this committee, as was the issue about having sufficient space for a committee meeting. And as we started the meeting today, talking about the small rooms that the legislature used to meet in, as the legislature started doing more to outreach to the public about meetings going on, and those were posted on the website, with so many people interested in coming down and testifying, your committee really did lead the charge on needing larger space for those committee rooms. So kudos for all of that work to previous committee members. So the question before...
It's getting a little deep in here, everybody, and for people online. The truth is, staff carried the committee through all these years, and it was definitely equal partnership, if not more, work by staff to achieve these great things. So I think the committee was taught by staff and led by staff in many, many ways. And you three and more were part of that. So every time you say the committee did this, the committee did that, let's think about the committee and the staff. Thank you.
Yes. So I think part of the question, as Anthony mentioned today with your charge from management council, is about the role of the committee going forward. You will be receiving an update at the end of your meeting from what is now the Exhibit and Wayfinding Subcommittee. There has been an MOU that's just been entered into between management council and the State Building Commission to transition that committee to what will be called the Capitol Square Governance Committee. And those provisions in that MOU fall under the statutory charge to provide stewardship for architectural changes in the building, structural changes in the building, artwork, exhibits, furnishings. So it truly would be more in the facilities realm, not technology and process realm. So I just want to be clear about the role of that committee going forward. That is a joint committee that has 3 members of the legislature and 3 members of the State Building Commission. And the idea behind it is there's a lot of shared space in this building. And while there is space that is controlled by the legislature and space controlled by the executive branch, this was a massive project undertaken by the state of Wyoming, and how we can collaboratively work together to make sure we're being good stewards to the building going forward. And so part of the question is, where does the jurisdiction of a committee such as this lie for exclusively legislative space versus the governance committee's role to kind of look at the building more holistically? And so that's part of what you'll want to consider today. And I don't know if Senator Landon has anything to add at this point as the chairman of the Exhibit and Wayfinding Committee, now Capitol Square Governance Committee.
Senator Landon, did you want to add anything about the coup you're taking part in here?
Mr. Chairman, good morning. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And I have to underscore what you said a little bit earlier, which is what a tremendous staff we've had through the years, and really want to tip my hat to them. Wendy did a great job of outlining kind of where we are with the 2 committees. I think we'll have an opportunity to visit a little bit later in the agenda, and I'll be glad to catch you up on what that subcommittee has been up to over the past year. It's been another busy year, and it's been about a 4-year project, as you know, that we've been focused on. And now it's time for that committee to kind of go in some other directions. So we can sure visit about that a little later and be glad to answer any questions now if you prefer. But big thanks to Wendy. A good overview of things as they stand today.
Thank you very much, Senator. Any questions for the senator? I'd like to also recognize my co-chairman, Chairman Weber. Welcome. Good to see you. Okay, back to you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we'll transition a little bit into electronic voting just because this committee has spent quite a bit of time on it. And for the rest of the committee, co-chairman Case did request that we do pull out our reminders about electronic voting because it is a really large area and it has a lot of terminology and people sometimes think the terminology is different. So I do think it's important to look at going back clear to at least 2001. That's how far back our website records go. And that select committee on the legislature was involved in getting roll call votes posted on the legislative website as early as 2001. To our knowledge, we believe you were the first and only legislature doing that for several years. So, that's a pretty big distinction for what we're about to talk about with terminology on voting. And so for a little bit of history, and some of what these handouts are that were provided to you are fairly outdated, but they do give kind of a nice background for where this committee was and when you really started looking at this issue. So this committee, its precursor started getting those votes out to the web in the early 2000s. Your committee started looking at the whole range of how votes are cast, how they're captured, how they're distributed, and how they're displayed as early as 2008. So there was a 2008 study that this committee worked on with the National Conference of State Legislatures, comprehensive survey of all chambers. And we like to, when we're looking at chamber processes, we like to look at 99 separate chambers. Nebraska obviously is one unicameral chamber. So looking at 99 chambers because in different states, House and Senate may have different procedures. So you first had done a comprehensive study and survey of all those other states with NCSL in 2008. That was updated in 2015. The study has not been updated since then, but in 2024, when this committee started looking at how votes would be displayed in the chamber proper and on the website from the roll call system, NCSL did a brief update on chamber display systems. So that information is mainly for you for background and history. We cannot say for sure whether chambers continue to operate in the way that they're portrayed here. But I think the main thing that we wanted to talk about today was just always to remind everybody of what do we mean when we say roll call systems? What do we mean when we say electronic voting? And so I think the first thing that's important is to talk about what does it mean to vote in a legislature? And so really what that is you can do everything from an unrecorded voice vote. And believe it or not, that can be done by an oral roll call, or it can be done in electronic systems. So basically it's just a way of capturing a mass vote without an individual recorded vote. So that's a really important distinction. And obviously you can vote by division, or you can hold a recorded roll call vote. And all of these things can be done through an oral process or through an electronic process. And there were, at the time of the 2015 and 2008 studies, there were essentially 3 types of systems in states. One was a fully manual system where the chief clerk would call the roll and manually tabulate the votes. And the idea behind those systems is that the chambers greatly valued tradition and custom in that chamber proper and did not want the use of technology. Other systems have what we consider fully electronic voting systems where the member casts their vote either from their desk with voting buttons, or now they are done sometimes by key cards, fingerprint systems, rostrum systems, but they are capturing their vote electronically, not audibly. The third type of system, which is Wyoming system, is called a combination system. And we always like to say that we have an electronic voting system with an oral roll call tradition. And the idea behind that kind of system is you've preserved some of those traditions. You've preserved that the member is physically present during the debate and the vote, but you can quickly capture, as the clerk is calling the roll, the clerk is capturing that data electronically, and then it is distributed and displayed. And Jamie will get into kind of the history of how that has been done over the years and how it's being done currently. So one of the questions over the years has become, if the Wyoming legislature were to change to a fully electronic system, would you be able to do those roll calls faster? And so that's been one of the questions. Could you get more time actually going through bills and not calling roll? But really, when you look at the process, it is, and it's a decision for your bodies. But when you look at the process, the Wyoming roll call vote system is held open as long as it takes our chief clerks to call each name and close out the vote. So in truly electronic systems, the rules dictate how long that roll call is kept open. So that's something to think about too. In all of these systems, the technology does not drive the process. The rules, statutes, constitutional requirements, your customs in the chambers, those drive what the technology then does for you. So that's just something that's kind of been confused over time. There's assumption if you use technology, that dictates decisions, and really your rules are what are most important there.
Just take a moment and go over this, kind of clear it, and for our friends online. What Ms. Madsen is talking about is the fact that the oral roll call that we have lasts, even in the House, it lasts a couple minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes, I suppose. But it's final when it's final. There's no gamesmanship of leaving that oral roll call and letting members go back and forth and change their votes. With an other type of input system, you could have a one and done. You push the button and you're locked out and it's done, and maybe that would go faster, I suppose. It might be marginally faster. Members wouldn't immediately cast their vote. They might take a few seconds, or they're thinking. So that's some time frame on that. But most likely, you would allow people to make a wrong choice and to cure the vote. So if you hit the wrong button by chance, you probably have some time to alter that back. How much time is up to the rules of the particular body? Now, if you've ever, some of you have been to, most of you probably been to Washington and seen the displays in United States Congress. And I'm not sure how it works, whether it's consistent across votes, but votes are left open for a very, very long time. I mean, sometimes like an hour or more, multiple hours, and you can see votes cast and then see them change. So in that instance, I come back to that this 2.5 minutes in the House, it's final and it's over and we move on. In that instance where they have a very rapid input system, it achieves nothing in terms of timeliness in the workload of the body. So, and there's everything in between. I think that's the point that Ms. Madsen is really driving home here, and I couldn't resist emphasizing it. So as we think about how votes are inputted, we have to think about the rules for doing that. And we may think, well, let's have this system that does it this way, but 10 years down the road, there would be rule changes or evolution of how that system is used, which may yield us results that we don't get in with this finality of 2.5 minutes. Any questions on that at this point? I mean, I think that's an important aspect of everybody thinks that we're going to save a lot of time by going to an electronic system in the House, and that is just not necessarily true. That depends. Questions? Anything? Back to you, Ms. Mattson. I'm not seeing anything. Thank you for that.
Great. I think it really comes down to what do you think as a body in your rules? How long would you keep that vote open if it was a button system and captured electronically? The other common misperception about truly full electronic voting systems where you vote from your desk by a button rather than audibly is that somehow that means all votes are recorded. And that is also not true. So that's the other piece of history here that's important, is one of the things that Wyoming, again, going back to 2001, of putting your roll call votes on the web. And then we know for sure in 2015 that was happening literally within a minute. It's just a matter of you take the roll and you give it to your terminal operator to put it out there. So your votes were going out to the website for all the world to see, typically in less than a minute. Now, those were unofficial till the journal signed in, but they were a very transparent way of communicating. You didn't have to be in the chamber, in the gallery to hear what those votes were. You could be anywhere in the world essentially and see that process. There at the time, and again, I don't know current day, but at the time, many chambers did not distribute their votes on the web. And some of them didn't publish the votes till their formal journal of proceedings at the end of the year. Some pushed them out at the end of the day, but Wyoming really was a leader in that area. So it's also important to realize that simply because it was an oral roll call did not mean as the clerks capture that, where again, when we talk about how they're cast, how they're captured, how they're distributed, Wyoming was distributing those on the web almost instantaneously. The other important piece about voting, and your rules dictate this as well, is what votes are actually recorded. So you can use electronic systems to essentially be a voice vote where you're just trying to get the ayes have it, the nays have it. Electronic systems can be used that way and not record each individual member vote. They can be used for division. Wyoming's rules at the time showed that we had more recorded votes than most states did. And that just has to do, with even the types of votes that you record in rules versus a lot of states who may not even have committee of the whole at this point, and a lot of those distinctions. So again, it's driven by rules, not by the technology.
Thank you, Ms. Mattson. Just an interjection. We have evolved the rules over time. And some of you will recall that there used to be a time that if a bill failed in committee of the whole, there wasn't a recorded vote. We did change our rules in both houses so that if a bill were to fail in committee of the whole, that vote is recorded. The final vote on a bill is recorded. That's one change we made. And I believe it was earlier a Senate tradition of requiring recorded votes on budget amendments involving money. And I think that's been expanded to both chambers now. So that's another area. And there's a couple more where we've expanded the recording of votes from what was previous practice. Back to you, Ms. Mattson.
We're coming in the home stretch. So the final one is just how those votes are displayed in the chambers themselves. And this is where I'll turn this over to Jamie and Anthony for what's happened since 2024. But in some states, they have what we call scoreboard systems. I think those are mainly starting to phase out, but that literally was light bulbs that were on the walls. A lot of states are now using technology similar to the video monitors in this space. And your committee worked on this in 2024, which is the last update we did on this. And so that's where I'll turn it back over to Jamie and Anthony for how Wyoming's display system works, both in the chambers as well as on the web with the roll call system.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Mattson at this point? Okay, who's next? Jamie? Is that you? Go ahead. Mr. Schwab.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So back in 2024, Representative Larson, who's now Senator Larson, was on this committee, and he has always been a big proponent of electronic voting. And really, since we did have electronic voting in kind of a hybrid fashion with the oral roll call, what he was really referring to and was pushing for was being able to see the live vote. And so you could see the tally happening. And in 2024, this committee was instrumental in introducing the live roll call vote so people online could see the vote as it was occurring. And this committee at that time felt, because the House still doesn't have any monitors or anything in the system or on the walls or whatever. And the Senate, I believe, just did it that year, possibly. And so that was a nice balance where everybody could see the live votes, but you could still keep the tradition of not having the monitors in the chambers. So that happened then. As kind of a result of that conversation, we did some preliminary discussions on what it would look like in the chambers if we did have like a device at the desks to do the full electronic voting. And I did some research on that, and probably what it would look like if the legislature introduced something like that is you could have a device on your desk and you would be using the technology similar to like when you're at the grocery store, you tap your credit card on a device, or like you're at a hotel and your like card is next to that, where you could authenticate to the device, and then for security reasons, you could authenticate to it, and then you could do the I no conflict type vote. If you do something like that, I don't know if like a lot of people think about this, but when you are doing the oral roll call, people aren't necessarily at their desk. They're in the chamber. They might be in the attorney's office or whatever, and people have to run out to do the vote. If you have a device like that, you're kind of tethered to your desk to be able to do your vote. You would be there, and the roaming around the chambers and stuff probably would need to stop. Another option would be if you don't necessarily want to tether each legislator to a desk, but you want to keep the security around being in the chamber, you would probably be looking at some type of thing where we would build an application for your phone. And before the session started, you would register that device with us, so we would know where that device is or whose that device is. You would then need to be on our Wi-Fi network as like a second, authentication method. Then you potentially could put like Bluetooth type sensors around the room. And based off of where the signal strength is of like connecting to these sensors or whatever, you would have a pretty good idea of where they're at. So if you have those around the room and you're really strong on one sensor, but not even connected to the other sensor, you might be in the hallway, that type of thing. But there is technology out there that you could probably do that type of thing. We haven't explored it too much, but those are some possibilities if you wanted to pursue the fully electronic method. But as was discussed before, if you do that, you have to leave these votes open for a period of time. And that's really the question in the rules of like, how long would you leave these open? And if you do leave them open for a certain period of time, do you actually save time, or does it actually take longer?
Great summary. Any questions for Jamie? Anybody? Is that all that you had on this? I'm sorry, Senator Landon.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just wanted to throw out that Mr. Schaub was honored not long ago by NCSL at a national conference, and wanted to tip my hat to him this morning. But also just to thank him for getting the wheels turning on this electronic front again. Boy, there's a lot to it. And I just had a picture, Mr. Chairman, of all of us walking around with helmets on, with receivers. Then you could pick up anything anywhere in the Capitol, maybe. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Stole my thunder a little bit, I did get a hold of the proclamation that NCSL gave our good colleague, and it's Jamie Schwab is a senior information technology strategist with the Wyoming Legislative Service Office, bringing more than 20 years of experience in enterprise IT operations, governance, and cloud transformation. He is recognized for developing scalable, secure solutions that improve efficiency, compliance, and user experience. He has led major technology initiatives, including Microsoft 365 security frameworks, AI-powered workflows, automated onboarding systems, enterprise collaboration tools, and advanced audiovisual systems at the Wyoming State Capitol. His work has modernized legislative technology environments and supported secure, reliable legislative operations and public engagement. He has also contributed nationally to IT strategy and policy through leadership roles with the National Association of Legislative Information Technology and NAILET. Jamie's longstanding service to the Wyoming Legislature, leadership in legislative technology, and sustained contributions to NAILET reflect the professionalism, collaboration, and dedication NAILET seeks to recognize through the Legislative Staff Achievement Award. So gotcha. Got you too, Anthony. And really, I think back of all the contributions and when you first came on board and how we rewrote the bill drafting system. I use that, like I was part of that. But that was incredible, unprecedented, and looking at doing that in-house versus contracting it and trying to, and the old system had been a workhorse, but it was not very flexible, and we were afraid. What if that system goes down? What's going to happen? What would we do if we had to go all manual, on and on and on? That was a great project, lasted quite a while, ruffled a lot of feathers. It wasn't easy, but Jamie, you successfully did that as well as many other things. So hats off to you. Tip of the Stetson, as our good friend Senator Landon would say, and we appreciate you very much. We're looking forward to working with you next session and beyond. Yeah. Okay, what else you got?
Mr. Chairman, I think that pretty much wraps up our this portion of the agenda. Obviously, what you're probably likely going to need to do now is consider a recommendation to Management Council on any changes to this committee.
Yeah. So any discussion about the IT aspect first? Not seeing any. Let's go to Mr. Director.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. One potential role, Mr. Chairman, I could see for this committee moving forward, and it's something I've been dealing with, well, a lot, but especially recently, Tamara Reveille and I, as legislative counsel, have been dealing with issues of consequences of our use of technology that maybe we didn't think about when we were implementing that. And let me just give you an example. I mean, everyone knows in the last 6 years, our use of technology in the Wyoming legislature has skyrocketed out of necessity due to the COVID pandemic. Our IT staff was able to, we didn't broadcast our meetings via video and our sessions until 2020. And then we had an almost completely remote session in May of 2020. We utilized video streaming to hold committee meetings and a delayed session in 2021, and then also a special session in 2021. Well, once we started broadcasting those meetings and placing them all online, we let the genie out of the bottle, and we couldn't go back to, before that, where the public didn't have that access. A couple things that have arisen recently from our live streaming and then also archiving the videos online. First is, and we've dealt with this over the last few years, but ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act compliance in our video streams. If we get a reasonable request for accommodation, we not only need to provide whatever services are appropriate in person, but also provide those services online as well. And so, we've worked to try to improve the closed captioning that's right now machine generated by Zoom, which is a platform that we utilize to broadcast the meetings. And then we utilize another third-party platform, YouTube, to actually host our videos and archive them. So that's something we've worked through. And another thing is for court proceedings, how do we classify our videos? Are they official proceedings of the legislature? Tamara and I have come to the conclusion that I can't certify that in any way. I don't have the knowledge of every meeting. I don't watch all of them. No one in the legislature does. And then we utilize Zoom to broadcast them. Zoom uses a closed captioning machine-generated system that is unreliable. And then we provide those videos to YouTube to host. YouTube has actually gone in and changed our videos before without our consent. We've tried to get that to stop and have met a huge roadblock with their parent company, Alphabet, in doing that. If you think that government is bureaucratic, try dealing with Microsoft or Alphabet on something. So Mr. Chairman, I really could see a role where hopefully our technology rollouts in the future, we don't have a pandemic to deal with, and we could be a little bit more thoughtful. And I guess what I hearken back to is when we first started thinking about video broadcasting our meetings with PBS in 2019, we spent a whole interim thinking about that with Management Council, with this group, debating what that would look like, what Management Council policies would need to be in place. And so I could just use more eyes and more brains on this sort of thing before we launch it, just to see, potentially identify some more of these consequences. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Questions for Mr. Director? Anybody on the committee? Anybody? Hand up by Chesnick. Go ahead.
Yes, Matt, I'm just curious, you said that YouTube has changed our videos. What kind of changes are they making and how concerned should we be about that?
Mr. Director.
Mr. Chairman, I'm only aware of one incident and when it happened, but it was during testimony at a committee meeting, and that testimony was flagged by YouTube as potentially being misinformation about a particular topic, and they put a stream on the bottom of it to say that, hey, these claims haven't been verified or been disproven. Well, when we reached out to, we started with the local lobbyist for Alphabet, who was extremely helpful, and said, hey, this is, totally inappropriate. This is a public forum where all issues are debated, and people are free to speak those in a respectful way, which this was, and it was removed, but I didn't get any insurance that wouldn't happen again, potentially. Now, it hasn't to my knowledge, and that was, I would think, about 5 years ago, right, or while we were still in COVID.
Any follow-up? Anything? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Director.
Mr. Chairman, and I should say about the use of YouTube for broadcasting and archiving our meetings. There's a lot of things that we shut down comments on those. We had that live for a while. And it has been cheap for us to do, very cheap. It's been fast. They've been good partners in the way that we can organize. So I really only have small complaints about that, but we stood that up fast, and it has proven we've expanded the outreach and the people who can view legislative meetings exponentially, and then also to go back and review those. So I think it's a great system. I think we need to continue it. I'm just saying that when new technology is implemented, there are consequences to those decisions. And this group could certainly help us think about, hey, what are those consequences and how do we mitigate them?
Thank you, Mr. Director. Thoughts on the bigger process? Let's go to Rothfuss first, then we'll go to Landon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just curious about the discussion related to having an official record, official video that Director Obrecht was talking about. Is that something that we feel we need? Are we comfortable with where we're at, where we don't feel like it's official, but it's certainly something that we're supporting? I'm curious what the implications are there.
Mr. Director, I think that's for you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Senator, great question. And I think what it would take is rule changes to say, right now our official record is the Journal of the House and Senate. And your rules are very clear that that's the official record, and that any recording won't supersede that record. But because of the way that we record our videos, which are, we use automated cameras, we use a third party, Zoom, to actually collect those videos. And then we use another third party, YouTube, to broadcast those on the line or online and then archive them. And then also, no member of the Senate or House or LSO goes back and watches each one and verifies that's correct, like your journal committee does, right? I mean, we would have to set up a process, a chain of custody, in my mind, to certify that these are official records. And they could be something less than the official record. They could be, this was the proceeding on this day. But to me, we need to figure out what that chain of custody thing would be before we could utilize that.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman? Thank you.
Certainly, Senator.
So I'm not hearing that we need to do that, though. I don't know what the reason is, and I feel like I'm comfortable with what you laid out as the official record being the journal. Do you see any detriment to us just continuing the same way we are right now, which honestly I think is working? I am definitely sensitive. I remember long before we were broadcasting on video, we were recording committee meetings, for example, and I recall a substantial amount of time was taken scrutinizing those recordings prior to release. And I don't want us to get back into a situation where we're doing anything like that, where staff was having to go through and appropriately work the recordings to ensure that there was no unintended recordings and other such things taking place. So I feel like we're in a good place right now. Do you think we should be looking for ways to change?
Mr. Director.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Rothfuss, no. And to a point that you brought up about scrutinizing, we don't scrutinize every video, but there are instances where we have a hot mic situation at a meeting that's completely unintended, picks up a side conversation. And if we learn about that, if that's brought to our attention, we have gone back in and removed that from the official video because it's not a proceeding of the legislature. So again, it might not be, what was actually captured during that meeting at all. And it's never purported to be that. No, I think this particular request was from a litigant. And I think that they need to figure that out within the rules of evidence. It's really not for us to do. And I think that's on them, not us. But what I do think we probably need to think about is a disclaimer on our videos, in our rules, on our website, to explain to people what these videos are for, why we keep them, and where they fall in the hierarchy of records of the legislature.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Landon?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. That covered a lot of where I would like to have gone, and appreciated the senator's question. So thanks to the director on that. I would pivot, Mr. Chairman, to something that I'd love a reminder of, and that is, what kind of investment have we made since about 2020? It's been substantial in man and woman hours, I think. But I'm just curious if the director can give us an idea of what sort of investment we've made. Every session we take up the feed bill, we call it. That's the bill that takes care of the legislative branch. But I'm curious. And then in addition to that, if the director can maybe give us some thoughts about what kind of investment it would take to embellish or improve what we have done so far.
Mr. Director, you think you got that? Kind of, what have we invested in this outreach, IT, public face of the legislature?
Well, Mr. Chairman and Senator Landon, great question. If you'll remember, when we first, actually during the renovation, there wasn't going to be video broadcast capabilities in all our committee rooms, and certainly not on the floor of the Senate or the House. Leadership at the time did not want video cameras in the House or the Senate, and for the thought that people would play to the cameras more. And COVID changed all of that, and we had to pivot on a dime to get that set up. Luckily, Mr. Chairman, what we were able to utilize for a lot of the meeting rooms in the Capitol, where it was CARE Act funds, federal COVID relief funds, we applied with the state and got a large portion of those state funds. Jamie is going to have a better handle on the direct numbers there. The other significant investment in technology we've had recently is the new voting system, and also build out at the Thyra Thompson office building in Casper. So, Mr. Chairman, if you're comfortable, I'll kick that off to Jamie and Anthony to answer that more fully for the senator.
Jamie.
Mr. Chairman, Director Obrecht is correct. From my recollection on that is, it was kind of ironic, but right at the same time we moved into this building, I think we were back for one session and then COVID hit. And we were in the middle of our AV project and stuff like that. And we ended up talking to our AV expert or whatever that did the scoping of the project and everything with us. And we added the video cameras and all of that. So you had the upfront charges that were pretty much picked up by the CARES Act. I do not believe the legislature ever had to appropriate funds for any of that. And so there isn't really any ongoing cost on that until you upgrade that system or replace that system. But probably on an ongoing basis is Zoom licenses that we pay for, that we maintain. And that's probably like an ongoing operational expense. And there is some expenses for equipment replacement. And Anthony could probably talk more about that, but those are probably the ongoing expenses that you're looking at.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Schaub's correct. Matt mentioned really how cheap this has been. And when you look at the grand scheme of things, for a small staff like us, the setup's ideal. I mean, a lot of these states have professional video production with staff, video staff dedicated to these efforts, 10, 20 plus staff. Obviously, we just don't have the ability to do that. Cole Bateman and Jordan Patton just do an amazing job with our AV systems, and the ability to use Zoom and YouTube and the simplicity of it to be able to train our LEs and the great job that they do. It's not something that certainly we could really pull off with a full blown production. And when you talk about our Zoom licenses, we're paying, I think around $15,000 a year, which I know is kind of a big number, but really when you think about what we're getting out of that, it's pretty cheap compared to the way a lot of these states do this. And then our broadcast to YouTube is cheap. I mean, we have a business enterprise license with them that the cost is minimal. And so you really could not do it without, without the help of PBS really on the road. But again, that is a pretty minimal cost. All we're really paying for that is basically what it costs to send our staff somewhere. So we're just reimbursing meals and hotel for them, which again is just a minimal cost. So when you look at what we're doing with the small amount of people and the financial resources we put in, it's a huge really bang for our buck, in my opinion, and not something that I think we could do with our small staff otherwise.
Kudos to you. Let's go to Mr. Obrecht.
Mr. Chairman, and I was just thinking of two other technology projects that we've undertaken recently that have a dollar amount attached to them. One is our digital management, our document management system. And Kara Nett, who can't be here today, was hired to be our document manager librarian. Now she'll also be the Senate chief clerk. We really, I think just to plug LSO real quick, we are better than any organization I know of identifying talent and then putting that in different roles. And our folks are just always so willing to take on these new roles and learn new things. Kara didn't know anything about the legislature before she was hired 5 years ago. And she found she liked it. I mean, she was a career librarian and found she liked it, liked the legislative process, thought it was interesting, and now she's chief clerk. I mean, it's just kind of amazing. So anyway, sorry about that, a little bit of a sidebar. So we've got the document management system, which has cost, I don't know, I'm going to put a couple $100,000. And then we've also, because the legislature has tasked us to do the regulatory impact analysis of executive branch agency rules, we've bought a economic modeling system called REMI, and Management Council approved us buying it at the county level. So we'll be able to do modeling of economic rules and potentially other bills as well at the county level. And that is up front was a lot, I think $400,000. And there's going to be yearly maintenance fees on that as well. But Senator, I'm sorry, I am coming to an end here. We just recently at LSO crossed the 50 employee threshold for the first time ever. That still makes us the second smallest legislative agency in the country. And while I am not a huge proponent of technology in most things, technology is allowing us to stay small. It really is.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator,
wanted to say thanks to our staff and thanks for allowing that to go in that direction a little bit. I think it just reminds us all of some of the accomplishments of a great staff and this committee kind of backing some things up. But appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Ms.
Chair,
Mattson.
if I could just mention one more, which is the build out of these AV systems in rooms. We are also looking at doing that in Lander at the Life Resource Center in the DFS Emerson building. And Matt and I have talked about anytime if you hear of little CapCon or remodel projects throughout the state. While PBS has been great and traveling with us remotely, it is easier for your staff as well as you as members to come into a room that everything operates and we can stream easily. So more of that type of a presence in office buildings such as Thyra Thompson is something that is helpful to you during interim meetings as well.
Yeah, we'll probably never meet in the back room of the bar in encampment again. There is a downside to all, but anyway, there were some great road trips around. So that's wonderful and appreciate that. Any more questions on these issues? I mean, truly, it's been an amazing ride. Any thoughts on the ideas that the director has? The notion about a disclaimer, I think we do need that. It's important we do that, and we probably should widely try to use the same disclaimer, even though there might even be different technologies. I recently had the opportunity to pull some audio files from before we had video. And they were remarkably good, remarkably good. I wasn't expecting that. And I got a request from the Washakie County Museum for archival information about the Sand Creek Massacre Trail designation. And staff helped me to find the appropriate audio in both houses, and we were able to provide that to the historian. And it's part of the exhibit for commemorating the Sand Creek Massacre Trail, which is coming up on an anniversary and a very, very big deal this year. So and that's a national effort regarding the Sand Creek Monument down in massacre site down in Colorado. But it also involves Wyoming in terms of we partnered with that with the National Park Service, and we have a designation of some of our highways. So that's what that was. So that's part of our electronic heritage in a way that was predated the video. So we'd love to look at a disclaimer, right? We're not going to be meeting again, but we'd love to help you with that and provide comments and however you want to proceed on that. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. Should we go to the next?
You want to make a recommendation to management council about continuing the committee?
So committee, do you want to disband or you want to recommend that we stay alive for management council? And Senator Rothfuss, you go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to disband. I think it's an excellent committee. And honestly, I don't know that we even need to change the title and take off the facilities aspect of it, even though we're going to be transferring an awful lot of that elsewhere. And that's great, right? Continuing the work of Senator Landon and his team and moving that over to a new group. But things might come up that we can discuss also, just that are more specific to how the facilities engage operations of the Senate and House specifically, which is not necessarily going to be exactly what we're doing when we're looking at the larger Capitol Square and the entire complex. So there might be issues that more appropriately come through this committee. And at the same time, I do think the work that we heard Anthony, Jamie, and Wendy talk to us about over the years that have come through this committee have been invaluable, moving things forward for the technology, for the process, for the facilities, and also a lot of the work that we've done over time for providing accessibility to the public. That's been essential. And really some of the rules recommendations that have come through. We didn't hit on those today very much, but a lot of the rules changes that have been proposed to help facilitate the process have come through our committee. And I think that's been invaluable as well. So I wouldn't change anything. Honestly, I think we're doing it right. We take on tasks when tasks are needed. We don't waste time when we don't have anything that we need to be working on, and it's appropriate for us to continue as we are.
Thank you, Senator. Any other comments from the members? Any disagreement with that sentiment?
I'd like to just add, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think along the lines of cost savings too. I mean, this is a 4-hour meeting where traditionally we would have all had to travel to attend. And because of the work of this group and staff, we've been able to attend these meetings virtually, saving the state on mileage and hotels for all the legislators. So I think that this has also allowed us to be more fiscally conservative um, and approach the process this way as well. So I think we should continue to find new innovative ways to save money for the people of Wyoming, and I think this committee helps with that. So
Thank you, Representative Larson. Everybody, as I look at this, is approaching that certainly, pardon me, management council could do this function if they wanted to. They could, but they are kind of limited and they tend to be caught up in perhaps bigger issues or perhaps more of a spattering of different issues that takes their time away from focusing on just this area. And we serve entirely at their pleasure. And if they don't like our recommendations, that's as far as it goes, and I'm fine with that. The other aspect that maintaining this committee, perhaps with its present name, is that I think we're a little bit more accessible than Management Council overall to the public. And I hope if we're not doing a good job in that area, we need to improve that. But we have tried to encourage the members of the lobby, for example, to come to us and discuss issues. Remember, we had lots of work in that area when we were in the Jonah building and then coming back here for the first time. And that's an accessibility aspect that I think certainly people can approach Management Council. I'm not saying they're not approachable. Please don't misread me there. But this small committee in this format is a bit more accessible, I think, to members of the public and members of the lobby to discuss process and other issues that are of concern to them, and facility issues too, including like the furnishings of the lobby. And we've talked about all this. So I'm for keeping us going if Management Council will. Mr. Director, are you suggesting we need like an affirmative statement that we recommend no change to our perfect world? Well, I don't quite want to say it that way, but tell me, Mr. Director, what you're thinking is.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, that's exactly right. Yep, take a motion or entertain a motion and a vote, and then you can present it to council when they meet this fall.
I love the you thing. So Senator Landon, thank you for having your hand up.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Appreciated the previous comments by the two senators. I wholeheartedly agree. I think there is absolutely a place for this committee. I had a smile on my face when I was placed back on this select committee. I've been on and off through the years, but have always really learned a great deal, and I'm really proud of the work that this select committee has done. As Representative Larson pointed out, for not very much of an investment, we have tapped into resources with a great chairman to be able to really have impact on what we can do for our constituents out there. So we can talk a little bit later about another group that was put together to kind of bridge the gap between the executive branch and the legislative branch with issues that come up on that front. I think there's plenty of room for this select committee to have a real impact going forward. So just wanted to state that I'm very supportive of what you said.
Thank you very much, Senator. So I'm not seeing an alternative view from anybody. We're kind of in agreement on this. Would that be fair? So I would propose that we have Mr. Director and the staff prepare the communications to Management Council, a draft communications that we would share and approve. Also, we're happy to take a look at a disclaimer if you want to start thinking about that. You don't have to, but I mean the disclaimer for our video and other materials that aren't part of the official record. If you guys want to think about that, we're happy to look at it. Listen to the Jets. So I think I can't help it, you guys. I go down to Lester Hunt's funeral, the day of his funeral. 8 jets came right over Cheyenne in 1954. Treetop level, crazy. Okay. All right. Are we ready to move on then? Without objection with those recommendations? Okay, let's move on. The next topic, laptops, is that where we're going?
Yep, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And Jordan Patton's going to take the lead on this. Just a couple of things. Before we kick it to him, this committee is responsible every 4 years. You're on a four-year laptop replacement cycle for members. We've come to that 4 years for most members, with the exception of those that were elected 2 years ago. And so this committee has typically in the past not only approved the laptops that we're going to purchase for members, but also the buyback price for legislators that wish to buy their current laptop later this year. So Jordan's going to go over that with you here. I will say that the laptops that we are recommending, the Microsoft Surface laptops, these actually were given a small group. We purchased for the legislators that were elected 2 years ago. We used them as kind of like a guinea pigs, if you will, to test out these newer laptops, and they have been remarkably successful. And we have received a lot of positive feedback on these. So that is what we're recommending for everybody in this replacement cycle. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jordan.
Jordan, is that where we're going?
Good morning, Mr.
Jordan,
Chairman
welcome. Mr. Patton.
and members of the committee. Jordan Patton, Senior IT Specialist, Legislative Service Office. Like Anthony mentioned, I'll kind of turn your attention to a couple items from the materials list. So first we have the memo on the legislative laptop buyback. And that kind of highlights, funds were appropriated to purchase new laptops. As he said, the last time we did this, we purchased 2 Surface laptop models, kind of test out and see. Reception on those was great. Everybody seemed to like those. So we're going to stick with that again this year. We have submitted the bid. We haven't received any information on that quite yet. But based on MSRP prices and things like that, we should be under budget. So should be good there. Highlighted in that document are some of the specs, pretty typical of what we've had in the past. We haven't really had issues, with performance on those devices. So we'll stick with those. And barring any objection, I think those are the 2 models that we'll move forward with. There's a 13.8-inch model for screen size, and then a larger screen size of 15 inches. There is a new feature in the 13.8 model. It actually has an integrated privacy screen. So we're kind of looking forward to testing that out. In the past, we've had a lot of people request privacy screens to attach to the devices. So nice that Microsoft has implemented that as part of a feature. Both of these models will come with Surface Bluetooth mice, as well as a 3-year manufacturer warranty. And then next,
Let's just see, any questions at this point? We're good, keep going.
next, I will highlight
Mr.
some
Chairman,
of the.
I do have a quick
Senator
question.
Rothfuss, I had a feeling.
Yeah. No, I think these are great recommendations. I was just wondering, it doesn't say on there which build number. I think the 13.8 inch has like a 12th build or whatever, but 11th is still available. And then I think the 15 inch has a brand new one that is as yet unreleased, but coming out right now. And so I was just curious whether the bid's out for the newest versions of each or for kind of that still available but prior tier of each.
Mr. Patton.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Senator Rothfuss. That's a good question. When I was doing the research and looking at the various models, we actually did submit the bid for the most current Surface devices. Like I mentioned before, the first generation to have this privacy screen. I did notice that there are a few different models based on laptop for business versus a consumer device. And so I think there might be some confusion there. I believe when I submitted the bid, it was based on the Surface laptop for business generation 8, I want to say.
Okay.
I think the previous models we had were either a generation 6 or a generation 7.
Great. And Mr. Chairman, and it's, I assume, the 12th edition for the Surface Pro?
Mr. Patton?
Sorry, excuse me, what was that?
The Surface Pro, is that a 12th edition?
I believe that is a Surface Pro 8, Mr. Chairman.
Maybe you guys have your numbers in different
Too
directions.
many numbers.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think the 15-inch laptop is 8th edition, and the Surface Pro would be either 11th or 12th, is my understanding.
Mr.
Oh,
Patton, does it make sense now?
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I understand. I think the confusion is with the laptops versus the actual Surface devices. This bid that we have submitted is for the Surface laptops only. He might be referring to the previous Surface models that we've gotten in the past, where they're the more so tablet device with the detachable keyboard. For clarification, both of these models have an attached keyboard similar to a laptop rather than a tablet.
Okay. Are we good, Senator, or you want to keep going?
Yeah, on that, Mr. Chairman, I actually thought the 13.8-inch model that was there was the Surface Pro, and so I guess I was wondering why not continue to have that choice between the Surface Pro as one option and the whatever the other one's called, the laptop one, where I think there's a lot of interest in both, and maybe there isn't, but I know in previous years that was the option that was provided, was whether to go with the Surface Pro as one option, and then we did, the IBM laptop for a while, and then the Surface laptop I think was a better approach, and that's what we're seeing here. Why the decision not to offer those two alternatives?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I can.
We've
answer-
got Mr. Sarah.
I can answer that. Certainly, that is the committee's prerogative. If you wish for us to go that route, we certainly can. Like we had mentioned, these were the laptops that we provided to about 30-ish new members 2 years ago. They were really popular. And in fact, in a few instances, folks have taken the Surface tablets and have actually returned them and asked for laptops instead because they didn't like them particularly. Obviously, it's up to this committee to decide what we provide to members. It also helps streamline our process when we're trying to roll these out. We'll have at least 38 new members coming up here this fall. And so it really helps our IT staff streamline getting these distributed to new members when they're basically all the same with just the difference in the screen size. So that is why we did not provide a Surface tablet option this year. But again, totally the committee's prerogative. And if that's the route you want us to go, we're happy to do that.
And so just to be clear, Mr. Sarah, people did have the Surface model and they traded that in. Some people didn't like that model.
We have a few members who yes, they started out with the Surface tablet and then just, asked us for a laptop instead because they just didn't like the tablet option. So that is why that's one reason why we did not provide the tablet option. And that was 4 years ago. Like I said, 2 years ago, when we used the incoming classes as kind of a test group for these laptops, we did not offer a tablet option for them.
Okay. And then you also said you expect 38 new members?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, as of right now.
As of right now. Back to you, Senator Rothfuss.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. No, I appreciate that explanation. And the only thing I would be sensitive to is if there are legislators that might potentially really like that. And you obviously didn't have a case where there was the opportunity for anyone to go the other direction. So I don't know that we have all of
Yeah.
the data for whether legislators would want to go with the Surface laptop or whether the Surface Pro would be their preference. If it is more difficult, and it sounds like that was one of the considerations, that having, and I understand that, having multiple hardware devices available with different configurations so you have more work, I can certainly understand the desire to have that streamlined. I was just curious whether it would be worth reaching out to legislators to see if they cared in any way, but honestly, it probably doesn't make a difference. I think everyone would be comfortable with one of these two options, whether it's the 13.8 or the 15. I would ask on that, honestly, is anyone going to choose the 13.8 over the 15? I don't know why anyone would, candidly.
Mr. Patton.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Office, that's a good question. We kind of figured the same thing last time around when we ordered these devices. Surprisingly, though, we had a fair amount of people actually choose the smaller device, whether that be for desk constraints or portability. But we did have a few that chose the smaller one.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I would add too,
Mr. Sarah.
we did want to offer a more compact version because of that, of not offering a tablet option. And so we kind of thought, I think one of our mindsets was that was hopefully kind of meeting in the middle to provide somebody with a smaller option if that's the route they wanted to go.
Sometimes the smaller options, the only when it works on an airplane, there's just no room, depending what you got for a seat. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Anybody else down this road? If a legislator absolutely needed due to particular circumstances, a special piece of equipment to accommodate their circumstance, we could probably figure that out. We've done it in the past.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Okay. So are we okay with this recommendation? Can we formalize it? I guess who would like to verbalize it, but
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Spector,
I would move to adopt the recommendation.
fair enough. Like it that way. Senator Landon, your hands up.
Mr. Chairman, just a second on the motion.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. I think I've got everybody, don't we? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. That completes the laptop. Do you have any idea how many, before we finish, and I see you've got another item, how many people will likely take keep their laptops? And we don't know. That's always, or is there kind of a standard take rate?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we don't know. Obviously, some impact will be on these prices that you approve here probably. Jordan can probably kind of give you more of a sense of what that's traditionally looked like, what it looked like 2 years ago. But right now we have not put that out yet to get a sense of where we'll be.
Okay, so Mr. Patton, you continue.
Sure, yeah, and highlighting some of the buyback pricing, like Anthony said, some of that determines, if people are more likely to purchase the device or not. We've seen a few in the past, I'd say anywhere from 10 to 15 or so that are bought back. But highlighting this, the two devices at the beginning were purchased about 4 years ago. We have the Lenovo ThinkPad T15 and the Surface Pro 8. And at the time, those were the two options given, a laptop and more of a tablet device. The prices on here reflect 3 independent sources. So if you look at that document, I've kind of cited each of those sources and taken an average of the price to base those values. As we've done in the past, Jamie Schwab has typically done that. Big shoes to fill, but I'll do my best. So the specifications of those devices are listed on there, and those are currently available for buyback for non-returning legislators. And then the two the next two devices, the Surface Laptop 5 13-inch and the Surface Laptop 5 15-inch from 2 years ago. Again, those prices are highlighted, 3 independent sources listed in there to come up with that price.
Any questions? Just for the public, they may not see that. What are those prices?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So the price on the Lenovo ThinkPad T15 Gen 2 is $428. The price on the Surface Pro 8 is $620. The price on the Surface Laptop 5 13-inch is $488. And the Surface Laptop 5 15-inch is $563.
Okay. Thank you. And just to be clear for people that might be listening or listen to this at a later date, this is a price that's based on the recommendation of this committee will be offered. A departing legislator would have the opportunity to purchase their laptops to take them with them at these prices.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Mr. Director.
Mr. Chairman, and Jordan can answer this, but in the old days, we used to take legislator laptops and give them to staff, clean them, erase them and give them to staff. There's not that need anymore. We don't have a tower hard drive anymore. Everyone always is working on laptops. So we don't need these laptops particularly for staff. And Jordan, what do we do with them now?
Mr. Patton.
Mr. Chairman, that's a good question. So typically, when the device is not purchased back, we'll keep a stock of extra devices in case issues arise. We can swap them out quicker with an older device temporarily while warranty work is performed, et cetera. After that, once we've had them for a little while, we will write them off of inventory, and they are at that point surplused through the state surplus division. We try to keep around a few of them, but eventually they kind of just go away.
So just to be clear, if we don't have a use for them, they eventually make it into surplus property and are disposed of by the state.
Correct.
Okay. Everybody okay? Should we approve those prices?
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Rothfuss?
When we developed this policy, it was largely around the fact that we were going to use them for staff, and we were saving money for the legislature effectively by bringing it back, and we had to be pretty thoughtful. That motivation being gone, when these things hit surplus, they get sold for pennies on the dollar. And it certainly doesn't come back to the legislator's budget in any way, shape, or form, right? That goes to state budget. Not that we shouldn't be looking out for that. I don't know that our motivation is quite as aligned as it once was with trying to make sure that we're getting every last penny from legislators. Candidly, I don't know that I'd even need to get payment back if it were just me, but I think the state probably has an obligation to some degree to seek some reimbursement for it. But as I look at the list, I look at the eBay prices. So this is what I can go buy it for. If it's on eBay, I can get it for that price right now. I can have it here tomorrow. And the eBay prices, with the exception of the Surface Pro 8, are rather substantially lower than the average prices we see. I think I'd be more inclined to target the low end because legislators have been using these laptops for a while. They have their information on them. We have no further use for it. The idea of just causing inconvenience for a legislator doesn't make a lot of sense. So I don't know. I'd rather talk a little bit more about what market values we use and maybe get more towards the eBay value where you've got, $200 for the first one on eBay, $550 for the Surface Pro, which seems kind of high but it does show why those Surface Pro are nice. And then 400 for the 13 and oddly 276 for the 15, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But I just be curious to know what everyone else thinks about whether we have to be getting top dollar out of these or whether we can just put in place a pay $250 and the laptop's yours, period.
So, thank you. I see Senator Lannon's got his hand up.
So, Mr. Chairman, I wasn't going to weigh in on this, but I really appreciate the thoughts just shared. I too was kind of sitting here wondering, do we really need to get top dollar out of these when 80% of them are going to go to the surplus pile? And when they go over there, most of them are not going to be purchased, and they'll just end up, being recycled somehow. There are 3 folks on the screen today, Mr. Chairman, who won't be coming back. And so we can't necessarily declare a conflict, I don't think, or if we do, we wouldn't have a vote. So I'm not quite sure how to handle this, but I sure favor the comments just made. I'll probably buy it no matter what, but it seems like we don't need to get top dollar out of our legislators on the way out. That's one of my sentiments.
Okay, thank you, Senator. We're going to go back to staff. Mr. Schwab.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would just like to clarify that this is for all legislators, not just the departing ones, because this is the 4-year replacement cycle. So it's basically everybody that's on the screen this applies to, not just the ones that are departing.
So it's not just you 3 that have the conflict, it's all of us that have the conflict. So you've really helped us out. It's a ubiquitous conflict, so there's no conflict, I think, if we go to.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a
Senator
question for
Rothfuss.
staff. One of the other concerns was just trying to make sure that we were comfortable that with the price being sufficient compensation so that we're not getting into the giving additional compensation problem, and what a rational price is. When I look at, we have surplus property at the University of Wyoming. That's the destination for almost every computer that goes through the university. It ends up at surplus property. You can go and buy it. I've never seen one for more than $100 there. Practically, that's what they end up going for, like $90, $80, or something along those lines. So, surplus computers really end up going at a discount. That's what I would expect its destination to end up being. I haven't been to the state's surplus property to go see what it costs to buy a computer there, but that's kind of what I think we're looking at, ensuring that we're providing the state with appropriate compensation such that we're not disadvantaging it ends up in surplus in the future and gets sold direct to market. So what I would say honestly is $250 for any of the computers. But I want to know whether that actually causes us any problems in the eyes of our staff, whether that's too low or whether that would be deemed appropriate.
So you're sort of suggesting a $250 price
Across the board, any computer.
across the board. And
Yeah.
Thoughts on that from staff? Mr. Director.
Mr. Chairman and Senator, yeah, I think that's adequate consideration. I do. Just we talked about this years ago when Senator Nicholas was the chairman of Management Council about just giving laptops to members and saying, these are yours, and also we have this, legislators are expected to not have to carry 2 laptops with them. So there's an expectation that these laptops that are provided have already been used for personal use and state use as well. So you've got all sorts of material on there. It's a headache for members to get it off. There's no real benefit to the legislative branch anymore in them being returned to us like they used to be. Just from a staff perspective, I think $250 is more than adequate consideration and probably a good place to land.
Anybody else want to weigh in on the 250? How about you three guys? Mr. Schwab?
Mr. Chairman, the only comment I would have is that 2 of the laptops on this list were only purchased 2 years ago. The top 2 were purchased 4 years ago. I don't know if that plays anything, but I just thought I would clarify that some of these laptops were just issued 2 years ago.
So would you want,
Prior to this policy, this committee used to use just a depreciation type thing over like 5 years. It would just take down the price 20% every year. And then you guys all implemented this policy probably about 6-7 years or so ago. But pretty much the 250 thing is about how it used to work out before this policy was implemented.
it seems like 250 kind of lands in the mark for most of this. I don't know about the 2-year-old ones. Do you want to recommend something different for the 2-year-old ones? Mr. Senator Rothfuss, you want to recommend anything different for those?
Mr. Chairman, no. I mean, and when you look at what you can buy them for right now, for whatever reason, it happens to be roughly the same amount. So I'm not feeling bad about that. And there's not all that many. I think most of them are on the 4-year cycle. So I have no heartburn over just saying 250.
And is that a formal recommendation? Senator Rothfuss, I see we do. Let's get Senator Landon first. Yep. He's got his hand up.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to ask the same thing, and if that was a motion, I would certainly second it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that's a motion, 250.
We got the second first, and then we got back to the motion, but that's okay. It works out. Any further discussion? All those in favor of recommending 250, raise your hand. Anybody opposed? Looks like we got it. Unanimous. Work for you guys? Great. We next to the item of public television, is that right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Frost will bring them up on Zoom.
Great. Our great friends in public television. Ms. Kale, welcome. Good to see you.
Well, hello, Chairman Case. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to present to all of you today. I'm sure you're wondering why in the world we're presenting about our towers across the state, but we're doing our best to educate our representation on what we do and why we're important, and that we're a big integral part of the legislature. But one of the things I wanted to start off with is a huge thank you to representation for investing in the studio space in the basement of the Capitol building. That was a space that has been very important to us to provide what all of you are doing during the legislature, information to the people of Wyoming. And we've been working with Ms. Madsen. Thank you very much to Ms. Madsen on how we can best accommodate the live feed from that basement space to the people of Wyoming. And that includes last minute opportunities for the governor or leadership to be able to talk to the people. We did that during COVID. That is still a service, of course, that we are proud and honored to provide the people of Wyoming. But I've been noticing that people don't really understand how our system across the state of Wyoming works. So we wanted to just present to you, if I may, Chairman Case, a video that we put together to kind of show how Wyoming Public Television, also known as Wyoming PBS, works on the statewide level right here from Riverton, Wyoming. There's kind of a tour involved. It also kind of talks about our tower system. And then I'd like my Chief Technology Officer, who is joining us, Josh Williams, to talk a little bit about how that system works. So truly, this is just an educational opportunity to share with all of you about who we are and offer an opportunity to ask questions as well.
Sounds great to me. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. I believe someone there has our video and was going to show it, so I'm hoping that's still the case.
We've got heads nodding. It's working. Just give us a second.
Okay.
When most people turn on Wyoming PBS, they simply see a television program. But what they don't see is everything happening behind the scenes to make that picture possible. Hi, my name is Josh Williams, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Wyoming PBS. Wyoming PBS first signed on the air in 1983 under the call letters KCWC TV. With just a single transmitter located on Limestone Mountain near Lander, Wyoming gained its first public television station. Today, our operations has grown to include 56 tower locations, providing over-the-air television coverage to more than 97% of Wyoming's population. Wyoming PBS is also available through cable, satellite, streaming platforms, and connected television devices, including one of the largest YouTube subscriber audiences among public television stations nationwide. There is a lot of technology and infrastructure working behind the scenes to make all of this possible. So let's take a tour of Wyoming PBS and give you a behind-the-scenes look at what happens here at the station and across the state to keep Wyoming PBS on the air. Welcome to our television studio. This is the space that we use to produce promotional material, interviews, and other studio-based productions. This space is also used by Central Wyoming College's media program. Students have the opportunity to work with professional broadcast equipment and gain real hands-on experience behind the camera. We probably don't use the studio as often as you might expect because a large portion of Wyoming PBS programming is produced outside of this building. Our production crews travel throughout the state to capture the stories in the places where they're actually happening. From here, we'll move into production control. When the production is happening in the studio, this is where the director and the rest of the production team work. From this room, the crew can control the overall production, which includes cameras, audio, graphics, and video playback. This space is also utilized by Central Wyoming College media students for live productions, including basketball and volleyball games. Now that you've seen where programming is produced, we'll head to Master Control. So we're now in Master Control. From here, we monitor the 4 television channels Wyoming PBS broadcasts across the state. Our primary channel is Wyoming PBS HD, which consists of national PBS programming along with locally produced Wyoming shows. Our second channel is Create, which features lifestyle and local programming. Our third channel is PBS Kids, providing educational children's content 24 hours a day. And our fourth channel is First Nation Experience, which focuses on Native American and Indigenous stories. Above us are our multi-viewers. These allow our operators and engineers to monitor multiple video sources simultaneously. Our automation system also operates from here, which automatically switches between the different programs and other material that airs throughout the day. But there is another extremely important public safety function happening here in Master Control. These units to my left are our Emergency Alert System Encoders and Decoders, or EAS equipment. Our EAS system continuously monitors several different alerting sources. That includes FEMA's Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, or IPAWS, alerts for all 23 Wyoming counties, National Weather Service sources, and our required primary and secondary broadcast monitoring sources. That allows Wyoming PBS to distribute critical emergency information to viewers throughout the state. But receiving the alert is only one part of the process. The actual television signals themselves are processed in another room. That takes us into what we sometimes refer to as the brains of the operation, our equipment and data room. As you may hear, this room is very loud because of all the fans and the AC running. This room contains much of the technology that makes our entire broadcast operations possible. A television program may arrive to us from a variety of different sources, but eventually all of them have to be routed, processed, encoded, and delivered to the correct destination, which all takes place in this room. This is also where our 4 television channels are prepared for distribution through our statewide broadcast network. When an emergency alert system message needs to air, that alert is ultimately inserted into these television streams before they leave the station. We also participate in another public safety system called the Warning, Alert, and Response Network, or WARN. WARN uses the public television infrastructure as a backup pathway for wireless emergency alerts. We receive that data through the PBS satellite system and carry it within our broadcast signal across Wyoming. In the event that the primary communication path to our cellular providers is disrupted, our infrastructure can provide an alternate pathway. So even though viewers may never see that portion of the signal, our broadcast infrastructure is supporting public safety in the background. And everything you've seen here and everything you're about to see in the field is maintained by an engineering department of just 5 people. I'm extremely proud of what that team is able to accomplish, and their job extends far beyond this building. Maintaining a statewide television network across a state as large and geographically challenging as Wyoming is no easy task. Behind the signal viewers receive at home is an extensive network of towers, antennas, transmitters, microwave systems, equipment buildings, and countless other components. Nearly all of that infrastructure is installed and maintained by our own Wyoming PBS engineering staff. Very little of this work is contracted out, which means our engineers have to be extremely versatile. One day they may be servicing a generator, the next day they might be installing or repairing an HVAC system. Each day presents a new set of technical and equipment challenges. And unlike working in a traditional facility, much of that work happens at remote sites. Some of those sites are located on mountaintops, others are miles from the nearest community in Wyoming's high desert. The weather is always a factor. Snow, wind, ice, lightning, extreme cold, heat, and difficult road conditions are simply part of maintaining a statewide broadcast system in Wyoming. So we're here at the Casper Mountain Broadcast Facility. So this is a 200-foot tower, acts as one of our main hubs for eastern part of the state. We are bringing our traffic from Riverton. It comes to here and then it breaks out and goes to multiple different regions of the state. From here, we go down to the south side towards Laramie and Cheyenne. And then we shoot out to Douglas and to the east side of the state and then up north to Gillette and Sheridan. Microwave and transmitters, they produce a lot of heat. And if the AC units stop working completely, it's only a matter of minutes before this building would be like 110, 115 degrees. So at that point, then we have to shut the transmitters down to low power where they don't burn up and cause issues. Technology has changed tremendously since KCWC-TV first signed on the air in 1983, and it will continue to change. But the mission behind that technology remains the same, connecting Wyoming. Thank you for joining me for this behind-the-scenes look at Wyoming PBS.
That was great. Are we going back to you, Ms. Kale?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Case. We actually just put that together, and I'm so proud of Josh. He had his moment of prime time there as our CTO. He's not typically on television, so I appreciate him taking all that time to put it together. One of the biggest goals here is just to help you guys understand that about half, well, a little over half of those towers are actually owned by the state of Wyoming. About 30 towers, I believe, Josh, if that's the case, are owned by the state. And some of them actually are real estate, the actual real estate under the towers. And a lot of people don't understand that. So us maintaining all 50 of those towers with five gentlemen here at the station is incredible. And I am proud of that team. One thing I would also like to do is just allow our Chief Technology Officer, Mr. Williams, to go over a kind of a backbone of how our statewide alerts actually work and how the system works. This is going to provide you an idea of what the spread is of both our broadcast and of our emergency alerts. We are a huge part of getting alerts to people, not just on Wyoming PBS, on our channel, but on all channels, including radio and television. So I'd like to hand it over to him with your permission, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Mr. Williams, that was a great video, great job. I think you have a future in broadcasting maybe. So, but to you for any comments, please.
Well, good morning. No, there's definitely a reason why I am behind the camera, but I appreciate the comments. If you can see our handout, it kind of just gives an overview of our statewide network. It shows a map there. So we have 56 sites statewide, and the majority of those sites, about 85% of them, are signals distributed by private microwave, which is the green lines that you can see there. The rest of them, we are utilizing either internet connections or private or layer 2 fiber connections that are either start here at Central Wyoming College and then are then distributed out to the in locations. We also, what's not on this map is we also have fiber connections that go down to Denver, Colorado, to Dish Network's head end and DirecTV's head end, which puts us on the air in multiple counties throughout the state on Dish Network and DirecTV. So part of that distribution is over the air, satellite, cable, and streaming platforms. And the streaming platforms that we're currently on are Hulu, YouTube TV, Amazon, Roku. So, and that's all sent out from the station here over a designated fiber connection as well. So with that, I'll move on kind of to the emergency alert. So we provide critical public links for emergency information, particularly in areas with limited cellular or internet service. And what I'll say on that is we put up transmitters in areas that serve only communities of 200 people. The FCC currently just there had been a filing freeze for any new additional translator licenses for the last 15 years or 16 years, and then they just lifted that filing freeze. So as soon as they lifted, we had all our paperwork together with our lawyer, and we went ahead and submitted for 4 new translator licenses, one in Lusk, Saratoga, Baggs, and Hewlett. So we're continuing our mission of trying to get broadcast signals into every household. We did throw in a statement here regarding WyoLink. While first responders utilize WyoLink for tactical radio communication, the public relies on the WPTV broadcast network for emergency broadcast. And the main reason we stated that is there has been confusion when we've been out talking to legislators or just community members, differing EAS with WyoLink. WyoLink, it's a communication platform for, it's internal to public safety. We're external. We provide signals to the public. So those emergency alerts that our public safety entities issue, then how they get them to the public is through entities like us. So then down below there, you can see our coverage map. So currently we cover 97% of the population in Wyoming. And as soon as we get those other 4 translator licenses built out, we'll be excited to say I think that coverage will go very close to 100% of households. So as the video had stated, we handle FEMA's alerts, that come from WOES, the National Weather Service, and local agencies. And so we monitor the IPOS network. So we're monitoring the CAP server for all 23 counties. So when a emergency manager at any one of those counties issues an alert, we will pick it up and we will broadcast it. Currently, how our emergency alerts are broadcasted is they originate at the station and then they are sent out across the state. So what we're trying to accomplish and what we're hoping to, that we've been trying to get the funding from FEMA and things. We've submitted grants and that's a whole nother story, but is trying to get those alerts that we do receive at the station geo-targeted at a county level instead of simulcasting those alerts throughout the whole state, but be able to geo-target those alerts to the specific county, so only the people that need to hear them hear them. That's kind of a big thing right now with the FCC and some of the regulations that they're looking at pushing through is trying to cut out over alerting and the noise. So when people receive an alert, they know it's meant for them. So if you scroll down to the 3rd page there, you'll see the another leaflet. So we in the video we stated how we're a partner in the Warning Alert and Response Network. So what that network does is it monitors the IPOS server for the cap codes for the wireless emergency alert system, which is broadcast to cellular carriers. So we are always monitoring the WARN network via satellite from PBS National, and those alerts are always being embedded into our signal. You won't see them come across like the handout says. There's over 11,000 alerts sent across the IPOS network last year, and so all 11,000 of those went over our broadcast system, but they're data that runs in the background, and so that acts as a backup to the cellular carriers if they were to have interruptions in communications to their sites. So you can see just on an EAS level, on a local level, these are originated alerts. They're not total alerts that we've received. So our encoders and decoders, they have the capability of not issuing duplicate messages, which is very important because we might receive the same message alert 3 to 4 times because of all the monitoring sources we're monitoring. And we do that for redundancy, so an alert isn't missed. And so those encoders, they will siphon out the message and then they will only air it once. So yeah, we just since January, we've issued 224 total activations. And so that is alerts that would be seen over our broadcast. So with that, that's kind of the end of the presentation that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Let's see if there's any questions. Any questions for Mr. Williams? Any questions? I'm not seeing any. We appreciate it very much. You did a great job. Back to you, Ms. Kale.
Thank you, Chairman Case. Thank you all for just listening and learning about why we're an important part of the state. Of course, I'm always going to brag about our storytelling, and we just recently received 4 Emmys, and so that's our favorite thing to do, as Chairman Case knows, and he watches our content, which I appreciate very much. So thank you all. And if you have any questions about what we do, and especially about how we were actually listening in, and Josh and I were instant messaging each other about YouTube. You guys were speaking earlier. We have a fantastic relationship with LSO. As many of you know, we are the resource, one of the resources that provides live stream for committee meetings that happen off the campus of the Capitol. So we have some thoughts on potentially broadcasting. We could work with the Capitol on broadcasting those committee meetings as well. So more to come, but I know you're all very busy, and I really appreciate your time in learning more about Wyoming PBS.
Thank you. Any final questions from anybody on the committee? Anything from staff? We look forward to seeing future proposals for expanding the reach of the legislature. So keep working at it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this morning. We appreciate it very much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and so now the next item I have is legislative rules and statutes governing bill catch titles. Mr. Director. And people recall this, this came up, catch titles have evolved to be more eye-catching, so to speak, in the past few years. And we're wondering if that's really an appropriate way to go, and thoughts about that. Mr. Director.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And Tamara Reveille will give the committee just a broad overview of what other states do and Congress in this area. But first, I would say that the way LSO treats treats catch titles currently is that they are part of a bill, and that the sponsor ultimately is the one who determines what the catch title is within some constraints. I think that it can't be more than 60 characters or around that amount. But, you know, I talked to Ian Shaw, our legal division administrator, yesterday, and he advised me that staff attorneys do let legislators know that, hey, that catch title may not accurately reflect what's in the bill, and give the proper notice to people of what the bill is. And like all our advice, the legislator is currently free to take it or disregard it as they see fit. So, Mr. Chairman, in the past, I had discussions with legislators about catch titles when they would get to the director review, and some were receptive to my suggestions and some weren't. So it is something we monitor. It's something we try to bring up to the sponsor. Like most of our advice, they're free to take it or leave it.
Thoughts from the committee? Questions from the committee? I've got Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It does seem like this has changed in recent years. When I started, and you've been around a lot longer than me, you pretty much took your catch title, and that was your catch title, and it was generally neutral and innocuous. And recently, it's sort of shifted to let's make it sound really good, so that it has a better chance of passing. I'm curious if we've ever had, or whether anything changed from a internal or rule standpoint. It doesn't seem like we changed any policy, so maybe the policy has been that way all along, and just everyone originally understood that it was more appropriate to keep it neutral, and maybe that understanding has gone away. But did anything change, or has the policy always been exactly what it is now?
Mr. Director.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Rothfuss, no, nothing has changed internally. What has changed is more bills are being introduced that are drafted originally outside of the Legislative Service Office and by a regional or national organization or organizations, and they have one name for that model legislation or draft legislation that they introduce in every state. So if you deviate from that catch title in any of the states, it may not be picked up in their national numbers of how many states have introduced that bill. So I think that's why what I'm seeing drive these different catch titles is that sort of dynamic there.
Thank you.
It was very tactful. Everything's very tactful today. I think I'm glad we're being tactful. Senator Landon.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just wanted to kind of pile on to what the senator pointed out.
Usually pile-ons aren't tactful, but here we go.
No, I promise to keep it tactful. I do think it has changed pretty dramatically in the last 4 to 6 years, probably. As you know, I've been around the Senate for quite a long time, and for many, many years, you just didn't run into what we see now, which is the more startling or the more outlandish you can make a title on a bill. It seems like that's what's picked up by the news media, and away we go. So I'm searching, and nothing's coming up for solutions to that. I'm just not sure. Ultimately, I guess it's going to be up to the legislators themselves to choose what they want as a title of a bill. But it has gotten fairly outlandish at times, and sometimes those titles have not really reflected what's in those bills. So,
well, this is probably a good time to go to staff who have done research on what other states do and kind of look at that memorandum. Appropriate? Ms.
Thank you,
Rebel?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Tamara Revley here, Legislative Counsel with the Wyoming Legislature. And maybe before I jump into what other states do, I can provide a little bit of history on catch titles and the role that they play in Wyoming legislation that might sort of explain where we got to today and where we used to be. And of course, we have the bill titles, and the bill titles are the long titles that we refer to. And those are drafted by LSO together with the legislature and the legislators. And those have constitutional requirements, the long titles, that the public be informed of what the bill is going to do, and that the title express what the bill is going to do under Article 3, Section 24. The catch title is something else. The catch title is that very short 60-character thing that you see on the top of the bill that sometimes can be cutesy, sometimes just can be kind of basic, but it's that short title on the bill. And those did not always appear on Wyoming's bills. I think they always had them in the digests, in the index. So when we would cross-index bills, when the clerks would cross-index bills, there was always a short way to refer to those bills. And that's the origination of catch titles. It was around the time LSO came into existence that the legislature started using catch titles on the bills themselves. Otherwise, there were just provisions for them to be in the rules, messages between the houses, and then indexed. So it was at its very basics in the 1970s. And before that, the catch titles were just an index, the short abbreviation of what the bill does. So you don't have search, you don't have Google, you don't have AI to find you what you're looking for. You go to the index, you look up the subject, you can find a very short description of House Bill 4, House Bill 5. So now in the 70s, we start printing those catch titles on the bills themselves. And, maybe it was the reading clerks that successfully lobbied, or maybe it was just the legislature that got tired of really long readings. We start using those catch titles by the 90s and to refer to bills in the readings, in the first reading, the second reading, and the third reading. Instead of reading the full title of the bills or even reading the entire bill, as could be done in the very early days, we could just read to the catch title. And today that's what we do, is just refer to the catch title on those readings. So they do have a significant presence within the legislature. The rules of the House and the Senate allow for the readings of the bills to be by catch title only and sponsor, and then throughout the journal to be referred to by catch title. And then, of course, everyone following along online is seeing those catch titles very prominently on our PDFing and our charts that allow the public to find the bills. So that's where catch titles kind of came from. And from something that was a subject index to now being kind of the short way to refer to bills. They're really not new to Wyoming. Of course, the Congress has lots of short titles for all of their acts, and their short titles are sort of printed on bills the same way that Wyoming's catch titles are. And they're not unique to Wyoming having issues with them, with the public perhaps perceiving them as not expressing the subject of the bills appropriately, or legislators wanting the catch titles to maybe help sell their bill or help spin it. And so I did look through other states and see that unlike Wyoming, there are some statutes and rules that govern how those states, how those drafters or how those legislators will scope or refer to bills. And those I did just send out by email. They're posted online. I was just going to read them to you, but I thought better of that. I thought you might like to follow along in writing. So those should have arrived by email, and they are available online. There's a memo dated September 2nd. It's Select Committee on Legislative Facilities, Technology and Process from me, Tamara Evely, bill catch titles. And you can see a couple examples of how states do this. Right now, Wyoming doesn't have anything specifically in our statutes or rules that govern what should be in the content, anything substantive about the content of catch titles. I think, as Director Obrecht said, our drafters and our legal division always try to make catch titles accurate and neutral, and we follow the system limitations and we ensure they're not duplicate. But we don't have anything that specifically says we have authority to revise the catch title to make it accurate. Now, LSO does have some authority in statute to aid legislators in drafting bill and to ensure that bills are submitted in a form that is consistent and proper. But generally, we don't have anything like these other states that actually govern the substantive content of the catch titles. So you can see in Idaho's code, they specifically require that the bill contain a specific phrase which expresses the subject matter of the bill. That's in statute. Then in Arizona, in their legislative rules and in their legislative drafting manuals, it requires that, and these are more like the management council policies for us, but I put them under rules. They require that the titles be accurate and that it include a description of the contents and that it not reflect political, promotional, or advocacy considerations. Arkansas has adopted its sort of constitutional requirements to say that the subject of the bill needs to be in not only the full title, but also the subtitle. That's their catch title. And Maine has an interesting rule where they require that the title accurately and concisely reflect the content and scope of the bill. And then if there's any, I guess, discussion and the sponsor objects, the president of the Senate and the Speaker of the House are to resolve that. Finally, or I guess a few more. Oregon requires that no measure be accepted for introduction unless it's accompanied by an impartial summary of the measure's content. And then that summary, the very first line of that summary is the catch title or their catch line. Utah requires through their rules, and this might be the most simple language that's presented here or straightforward and to the point. It's in their rules that a bill's short title use language that accurately and objectively describe the bill's content and does not explicitly or implicitly advocate for one or more of the bill's policy objectives. Then finally, lots of states do have this more specifically articulated in their drafting manuals than Wyoming does, although we do have a drafting manual and we do inform legislators and drafters on how to draft titles. We don't have it specific to catch titles themselves about what it should contain. Colorado does, and I only included about a paragraph. I think they have about 3 pages about how to write their short titles. They get into pretty good detail there, but that first sentence kind of articulates that bill topic should not be used to achieve a partisan purpose or effect, that it should not make a bill more attractive or spin it. That should be objective and neutral. And those are for their drafters. Of course, anybody can do anything in a drafting manual. Where it comes down to is the legislators themselves and the legislatures, the bodies, whether they want to accept bills with these titles and whether they want to have any enforcement mechanism for revising those or for giving direction to staff on what we should or could be doing.
Thank you very much. That was great. Any questions from the committee? Any general discussion? Senator Rothfuss?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think this is a challenging area, but it is one that I feel like we should try and come up with a rule on. It's challenging because we don't want to put staff in an awkward position where they have to argue with legislators over whether or not a rule is or isn't appropriate. I don't like that idea. But at the same time, we really do want the bills to have neutral, informative catch titles because that's an appropriate obligation for us with regard to engaging the public, right? We don't want it to be misleading or uninformative, the Bill Landon Act or something like that, right? Great title. I support it.
Great title.
Absolutely. But it doesn't convey what that legislation is actually about. And we've seen a lot of those types of titles over the years also that are just entirely vague. I don't know what the sweet spot is. One of the things I think about is working through how this would actually play out. If we put it in rules, we really only have the opportunity to enforce rules once we're in session in an effective or meaningful way. So you've already got a bill out there that has been filed, it's numbered, and the legislature is deciding, well, we don't like that catch title and we're going to try and change it or something. That would probably become functionally a little bit awkward. So I don't know how we implement it, I guess is what it comes down to, even though I support implementing it. I just don't know exactly how it can work well. And I'd ask, Tamara and others, what will work within our system that we feel like we could actually do?
Thank you, Senator. We appreciate that. Senator Chestic.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of like the main approach from the Tamara's research. I think that's a good way to handle it. I think we need a rule that says that catch title should be neutral and informative and accurate. But saying that is one thing, enforcing it is the other thing, which is what Chris is concerned about, Senator Rothfuss is concerned about. And I think Maine has a good compromise where in order to enforce it, you give they have the reviser of statutes. We have LSO to they say, no, this is the way we're going to publish it this way. And if the sponsor objects, then we have the two chambers leaders informally resolve it by agreement between the two of them. I think that's gives due process to the legislator who objects to the decision of LSO, but it does give also enough authority to enforce the rule. So I kind of like the main approach.
Gotcha. Thank you. Let's jump to Senator Landon. And then I want to put notice, I mean, certainly looking for public comment on this very issue. You're the most affected by it. And if anybody online, we have public here. So, but let's hear Senator Landon, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Good comments by fellow legislators on this issue. I do feel compelled. I agree with Senator Rothfuss in the fact that very difficult to police something like this. But on the other hand, I feel pretty compelled to bring something of a recommendation to our management council, either through rule. I don't think we have to reach all the way to the statute level, but if there's absolutely nothing in place which says that we don't favor this kind of thing, then it's very difficult for leadership to later say, well, you shouldn't have had that title on this bill. It feels like to me anyway, that we should make some recommendation. I agree with Representative Chestic. I think Maine has an interesting approach. I kind of like Arizona, Utah. They both come right out and say, you know, the title is not where you advocate for a bill or et cetera. So that's kind of my take on it, Mr. Chairman. Feels like we should maybe address it in some way.
You bet. And I can see as we go forward here that we may want to have something written in the rules. It seems like that makes sense. But then we have to talk about how that's actually enforced and whether it's presiding officers, rules committee. The legislature also has, each body has the choice to change the catch title by amendment. It doesn't happen very often, but I've done it. The trouble is it doesn't really change the official notes or anything. I mean, it's still listed as when you look the bill up, the fact that we change it on the floor, and we did this last year, I think, doesn't really go back and rewrite the history and the way it's presented. But Mr. Director has a suggestion, and then we can talk more openly about all of this stuff. So, Mr. Director.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And what I would support is an approach like Utah's, either in statute or in rule, that says LSO will draft a bill short title and describe what needs to be, how that short title needs to accurately reflect the bill's content and doesn't advocate for the bill's policy objective. And then to your point, Mr. Chairman, I would simply also state in that statute or the joint rule that either house could then amend that catch title. And I wouldn't leave it to the presiding officers like Maine does. It's too much pressure to put on a presiding officer. And I would make it up to the body. And if we had that clear guidance, then everyone would know that they're on equal footing. And if they have a particular reason for a unique catch title, they can advocate for that just like any amendment to a bill.
Okay, mull that one over. And why don't we, Ms. Harmon, would you like to address this? We'd love to hear from you. And I don't know if there's any other public comment possibly in the room or online. Good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Marguerite Herman, I'm here for the League of Women Voters. And I appreciate your bringing this forward from discussion right at the end of the previous session when I brought it up. And it is kind of thorny, but I think only because people expect to have complete control over the catch title. As Mr. Obrecht mentioned, if it's a rule and people know it's there, I think that people will have a caution not to maybe just tell the national group who wrote the model legislation, whatever it is, I'm sorry, I can't use this. And just as an example, I'll just start out by saying the whole discussion this morning, especially the beginning about technology, you really had focus correctly on public understanding, the making it possible for the public to understand and participate in the process. And some of these catch titles are so far from giving people a clue at what they're about, and matter of fact, misdirecting, I think. This is simply part of the earlier discussion today as far as truth in advertising. And I'll just say that they can be so general to be meaningless, but they can be actually misstated. And I'll just example Senate File 190 from 2 years ago. And my apologies to the sponsor, but it was, the title was Election Transparency. And I can guarantee you nothing in that bill had anything to do with transparency. And so I could just see someone voting against it and then having that be part of some kind of a smear campaign, which I know is not on the agenda today, but I think it was fair to people in the legislature to be able to vote on something and have the catch title represent what was in the bill. I suggested that the LSO, the attorney who writes the bill, write the catch title, being completely familiar with the content. That may or may not be possible. I guess it doesn't really matter who writes it, but it should be someone. And I do like the Utah rules, those 2 guidelines, that it be accurate and not try to sell, but accuracy to me as a service to the public, as a service to the legislators. So that doesn't come into the decision how to vote, how to support, that sort of thing. As far as the suggestion that, people should be able to amend the catch title. In all the years I've watched the legislature, the catch title, I can't remember that being, and it's resisted because it's not official, et cetera, et cetera. So that doesn't seem to be a real practical solution to it. So I guess, I appreciate the work done by LSO. The Utah thing sounds good. I think it has to be a rule and maybe independently by chamber or maybe a joint rule. But I think if people know that, then they can tell the national group, whoever it is, that doesn't, I can't use that. And so just as a fair notice. And I would just say to the response of people who say that this is a reason to preserve a title that comes with the bill, the model legislation is just a, the focus should be on public understanding, public service, and public access and public understanding of what it's the people's house, right? And so it's not the house of Alec or whoever. It's, and so I would say, anything you could do to make it, whether it's the leadership or LSO or whoever writes it, it should, I think, hew to those 2 requirements that Utah uses. I think they're good. And with that, I'll just leave it right there. And if I could, Mr. Chairman, just real briefly,
Is this where you leave it right there? No, except for one thing. No, go ahead.
Well, I
Please,
was just going to echo your congratulations to the LSO staff on the technology, which has opened up the legislative process to the world and to the rest of the people in Wyoming. And I'm as grateful as anyone else for that. I think they're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. And you've been part of that journey with us.
A little bit.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Herman? We're good. Thank you. We appreciate it. Is there anybody else online?
Chairman Case, we have Jenny DeCero online.
Great, Ms. DeCero.
Hello, good morning, committee. I'm Jenny DeSaro with Equality State Policy Center. I will start by saying technology is what is enabling me to testify in front of you from Cody. It is a significant difference to get to Cody to Cheyenne by driving versus videoing in. So this is a sample of how we have really made our legislative process accessible. So thank you. As for catch titles, the Equality State Policy Center has just had an intern do a lovely research project, and the catch title is significant in its origin for cross-referencing and indexing the subject matter of titles. And so we strongly encourage the legislator to consider putting it in statute to make it accurate and nonpartisan. We also really support the idea of having LSO draft it. They are your most neutral element in this process. And so for them to have that authority to draft it initially, I think is the wise way to go. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. DeSaro. Any questions for Ms. DeSaro? Any questions? So, Mr. Saros, if I heard you right, we'd flirted with the idea, I think it was mentioned maybe by the director, I can't remember exactly, that you could also put this in statute. I mean, we have a body of statute that involves the legislature. I'm thinking about that. I think that might have some advantages, but at a minimum, we would need it in the rules. And we're just making recommendations to Management Council. It'd be nice if we kind of wordsmithed it a little bit to get it correct, but also think about the issue of the statute. But the proposed Utah rule, do you have that in front of you? You don't have that, I don't think.
No, I wasn't able
to
find the
I'm going to read it to you again and maybe just slightly modify it. So it'd be something like, the Legislative Service Office shall draft a bill's short title and long title described in subsection 1 using language that A, accurately and objectively describes the bill's contents, and B, does not explicitly or implicitly advocate for one or more of the bill's policy objectives. And then as proposed by the director of the LSO, I don't know if he's necessarily advocating, but he said we could add a piece that says, makes it clear that the chambers that the legislature can change the catch title by floor action, by our own process. And I certainly have done that. What do you think about that, those three elements?
I think they sound very good. And from the audio, I do think those are good. The one it would be if catch titles are going to be changed in the process, wouldn't it be lovely if that was reflected in the record as well, like in the database? Because, for instance, the student was going through and having to search bills, and the way that the searches engine happens is by what's in the catch title. So if it's improved through the session, but it's not improved in the back end, then it's not as helpful. So if the more we can do up front to make the bill as clear and topic relevant and neutral, then the easier it is. Years later, when you have an intern who decides to look 20 years back into the bills, it can be helpful.
Yeah, and I appreciate that greatly. I'm not actually sure how, certainly the first part, the first two elements, having the LSO prepare their catch title and having some standards for that, that's going to solve 99.9999% of the problems. In the rare instance where the chamber wants to change a catch title, I don't know how you go back up the stream of the way bills are introduced, they're noticed, they're organized. I don't know how you change that, and it might be confusing to change that. So I yield to the director. He's got some input on that.
So, Mr. Chairman, what we would do with that is when the bill was first introduced, on the bill landing page would have the catch title as introduced. But then as it moved through the process, say it was amended in the first house. So the engrossed copy would then have the new catch title, and that's what would be displayed on the bill landing page and the session landing page from there forward. So, and you would be able to go to the digest and see that was changed. And then you would also be able to look at the introduced version of the bill and see what the old catch title was.
Okay. That works. I think that roughly works. I'm getting nods by half of the chief clerks in this building. And one of the assistant chief clerks. So that's great. Okay. Any other public comment? Any questions for Ms. DeCero? I didn't want to overlook that.
Chairman
Thank-
Case, I just wanted to point out for the committee and for the public, Ms. Reveley's memo has been posted to the website and it's meeting material 5-1.
Meeting material 5-1 for our interested television audience. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Frost. Good job. So I'm looking for a motion to move forward, and Senator Landon.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would move that the committee forward a recommendation that a rule be adopted using the Utah skeleton framework and allowing the director and his staff to some editorial freedom to put that rule together according to what Wyoming would need it to reflect. So that's a long motion to say, the staff can get this drafted up based on the Utah model and present that to the management council.
And Senator, as part of your motion, do you include the possibility, clarify that it is possible to amend the catch title in the process?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do think that we could include that.
It's kind of a
I
safety
think that's a starting point for some conversation anyway with the motion.
Thank you. Is that a second from Representative Chestic? You've got your hand up.
No,
I
I have discussion. If it's seconded, I have some discussion.
I've got a second from Rothfuss, so we're ready for discussion. Senator Chestic.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like what the direction that the Utah language goes, but I'm a little concerned about the part B, does not explicitly or implicitly advocate. And the reason I am a little hesitant on that second piece is I teach advocacy in my law school classes. That's my job. And I teach how to be subtle with your advocacy by using word choices that don't. So implicitly advocating is a very slippery slope. It's word choice can have a very subtle effect on the way you think about a problem. And is it advocacy or not? Gets to be a little dicey. It can be, but maybe isn't. So I that's a very fuzzy standard. Implicitly advocate is a very fuzzy standard that I'm a little scared of. So I'm not sure I'm opposed to the motion, but I would be happier if we stopped at A.
Okay, let me just push on you a little bit. If we were to take the B clause and everybody, B says does not explicitly or implicitly advocate for one or more of the bill's policy objectives. We could wordsmith the B clause a little bit if just throw some things out there. You could take out implicitly, just say does not explicitly advocate for one or more bill's policy objectives. That's one possibility.
Yeah.
You could take out both words, explicitly or implicitly, and just say does not advocate for one or more of the bill's policy objectives. Or you could eliminate B entirely. Thoughts? And back to you, Representative, since you opened this up.
I think it's better if we take out explicitly or implicitly, it just says advocate. I think that would be, I'd be much more comfortable with a B that says does not advocate for one or more of the bill's policy objectives.
Okay.
So that
let's
I
toss
would
that
prefer
around.
that. Okay.
Let's toss that around. Thoughts from the committee? Thoughts from Mr. Director? Got a thumbs up from the director. Folks, what do you think? Is that okay?
Mr. Chairman, having brought the motion, I'm good with that.
So that's friendly. How about your second, Senator Rothfuss? That was a sideways thumb with a nod of the head, I note. So I think that's a convincing agreement. So, all right, any further discussion?
Mr.
Make
Chairman?
that modification. Senator Rothfuss.
Yeah. Um, I've been thinking about the amendment concept and your suggestion and our inclusion of allowing it to be amended. And I don't know that I like the idea unless we constrain it to the same rule set. Because the idea of coming in with a neutral catch title and then changing it to the I Love Puppies Act or whatever, uh, gets back into the same problem that we're trying to get rid of. First of all, it's
By
no longer
majority, yeah.
informative. And second of all, at that point, it's theater instead of public information. So I started off right with you thinking, yeah, we should make sure that the amendment process allows that. And now I'm struggling to understand why I would want it to be amended outside of the constraints that we're putting in. Now, if we bound ourselves by the same constraints and amended within those constraints, that would be okay. That'd be similar to the true title, right? You can amend the true title and you can amend the act so long as it stays in the true title. You've got some constitutional obligations there, but we basically are still bound by our own rules at that point. But I don't know what I see as an advantage of allowing it to be changed through the process. So I'd reopen that discussion.
Let me try something different with you on that for just a second, everybody. Really, I believe we can change the title now.
Mhm.
And I've done it.
Yes.
We have changed the title. And the only reason I was really thinking that we put it in here is it would be clear to everybody that you can change the title, because some people say you can't. So I might meet you halfway, Senator Rothfuss, and just say, let's be silent on the title change part. And that is a tool that's always out there. And we can have that discussion in the chambers then, but Mr. Director, weigh in on that.
Mr. Chairman, I understand you know, where your desire for that is coming from.
There's a but here, I know it.
It's coming right now. LSO makes mistakes, just like everyone else. And I think this may be more palatable to the bodies to adopt if it's clear that they're the ones who have the final say on what that bill title is, just like they do in every provision within a bill. So that was why I would advocate for inclusion of specific language that the bodies get to decide what's in the catch title.
Okay, so, and with that, I see Senator Landon's up, but I'll throw out, the chambers may amend the catch titles along these guidelines, meaning the guidelines in the policy. But Senator Landon, to you, I didn't mean to run over
Well,
you.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the discussion and I'm just sitting here kind of smiling, thinking if I've got a bill and one of the first things I do is come in front of the Senate with an amendment to change the title, I'm smiling, wondering how that's going to be received. I would think that probably I would coach new legislators to maybe not do that. But, you know, I mean, it exists and you're exactly right. You can certainly amend the bill title. But boy, I'm thinking that if you start amending bill titles, I don't think that's going to be very well received by at least one chamber. I suppose we can keep it there, just to remind everybody that you can do it.
Yeah, and it's not so much further director's discussion that you could correct a mistake. And there could be some whopper mistakes, it's possible. You could correct a mistake. Senator Rothfuss, what do you think about the kind of the compromise language?
Well, Mr. Chairman, and the way that you phrased it so that it still remains consistent with our limiting language, I totally support that, right?
Okay.
So that it still has to adhere to some standards of objectivity. And that's going to be subject to the opinion of the Senate, and it'll be a rule. So it'll be subject to an appeal and do we feel that this still meets the rule? Yes, no. And so you have votes about that. But
And then the body will vote on it and do whatever they want.
do whatever the hell they want. Exactly. But it's kind of okay because
It is.
you know, we do that, and when we're operating our best, and I think, for example, the last couple of years we did a pretty good job of that, of separating the politics from the rules and doing the right thing. So this gives that opportunity for an appeal. Yes, I would love to vote for that title. I love this bill. It's my favorite bill, but that's outside our rules for how a title should be configured. So on a rules basis, I would appeal that's outside of what the rules allow us. It's not objective. And I think that gives an additional level where, again, when we're operating at our best, it'll allow us to think that through objectively. So I can support it in that, with that.
Great. I'm
that
actually going
constraint.
to ascribe the motion to you for
All right.
that one. And
Sounds good.
who would like to second that? I got it. We've got, let's make this a democratic sweep. We're going to give it to Chestic. So as I understand the motion, it takes the Utah rule in the great memo that we've been presented and says, and we conform it to be, it's the Legislative Service Office or Wyoming Legislative Service Office. Shall draft a bill short title and long title describing section. The subsections will change, but the first part accurately and objectively describes the bill's content. And the second one says, does not advocate for one or more of the bill's policy objectives. And then there's some conforming language in whatever form, but says that either the legislature may amend catch titles along these guidelines or as part of their process along these guidelines. That is the leeway is granted for wordsmithing, but that's the gist of our proposal.
That sounds good. Mr. Chairman, I do have one other thing that I
Go
don't know
ahead.
if it gets into it or not. The advocating aspect of it, we've had laws or we've had catch titles that are named after somebody or something somewhere.
Sure enough.
And I think that's bad practice, and it's exactly what we should be working towards getting away from. I don't know if that would be deemed advocating for. So I'm wondering if we need to be explicit in some way about that. Or I guess I'd ask Director Obrecht, would we count that as advocacy? In some ways it is, and in some ways perhaps it isn't. But I want to make sure that we're covering that base where, it's not my dear friend Bill Landon's law.
Yeah, and just for the public, we occasionally have a bill that commemorates some person in the title or an event. So let's think about whether we can still accommodate that or we have to create a different way to accommodate that kind of thinking. Mr. Director,
Yep.
Get us out of this hole.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Rothfuss, great discussion point. What I would say is advocacy would be if we called something, John Doe's law. But that law had substantive provisions that applied to everyone who wasn't John Doe as well. Where a bill catch title could still retain someone's name if it was John Doe's Memorial Highway, if it was John Doe's day, and we recognized that specific person on that specific day or named a specific highway after him. I hope my distinction is clear.
I think I'm getting it.
Yeah,
Senator
Mr.
Rothfuss.
Chairman, that's exactly what I would hope, and that's the interpretation I would like to see. If the language does that, then I think that's suitable.
Okay. Any further discussion? Senator or Mr. Obrecht.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And maybe just one point here that Chief Clerk Katie Talbot brought up to me via text message is what we would do is if a rule was adopted or if a statute was adopted at this point, we would then provide guidance in probably the Wyoming Manual of Legislative Procedure about how we interpret that, how the body interprets it, how Management Council interprets it. So we could explain distinctions such as what Senator Rothfuss just brought up.
I think that's great. Sounds good to me. What do you guys think?
Good.
Mr. Chairman, I might have one more comment.
Oh, okay. Please go ahead.
One thing to also keep in mind with this, as I see other states that have adopted these and incorporated them into their drafting manual, is that this often prevents acronym bills as well. So things like the Granite Act or having the acronym there in the title. Now, the short title of the bill that goes into statute and is codified as this act may be cited as, that could still be an acronym, but
Right.
generally to describe a bill with an acronym that might mean nothing to the public or be a word that doesn't actually describe what the bill does, just an abbreviated acronym, this might prevent that. And so I can see that being a surprise maybe as this rule is implemented. And so to think about that as we move forward with the recommendation.
But I think your basic point is that it's complementary to that improvement.
Depending on how you feel about acronyms, Mr. Chairman, and,
Okay.
and whether you like those in to show your bill titles. We probably, in interpreting this, I would imagine we might say you might not see as many acronym bills come out.
Okay.
I think that would be a win, Mr. Chairman.
But
Mr.
not,
Chairman?
not in something we need to put in the motion, as I
No.
understand. Thank you,
No.
Senator. Go ahead, Senator. Senator
Thank you,
Rothman.
Mr. Chairman. So one other topic, we're not going to put in any type of appeals process, and I think that's just fine, going to the chamber and allowing for the opportunity to change it. But I do want to make sure that we're comfortable with, if I'm having a bill drafted and I don't like the exact catch title, I assume that as this is written, I'm still able to say, well, I don't know that that quite captures it. What about this as the catch title? And, you know, where are we at on that? Because again, I want to make sure it's workable and appropriate, that LSO feels empowered, but at the same time, you know, sometimes there's a better catch title that still is accurate and within the description that a proponent, the sponsor, might prefer. So how, as we read this, how do we feel about that? I'd ask Director Obrecht, are we providing wiggle room here, that there's still a conversation between the drafter and the sponsor?
Okay, Mr. Obrecht. I bet the answer is no, that this is going to be ultimate and absolute.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, no, and the chairman knows it won't be. This is still a collaborative process. And what I think this would just give LSO is the ability to say, hey, I'm sorry, Senator or Representative, we just don't feel like the catch title you proposed meets this rule requirement. And then we would have the ultimate say, but if the bill sponsor said, hey, now this catch title would work better and still accurately describe the contents of the bill, we would consider that. And if it did accurately describe the contents of the bill and didn't advocate for the bill policy positions, we'd utilize that catch title.
Perfect. Thank you.
Senator Office, I think we're just going to have to trust to reach, I know, but the reasonableness of the LSO.
I'm always willing to trust them.
I think that's a good bet. Any further discussion about the proposed policy? Okay, seeking a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, any opposed? Got one. I'm counting one opposed. Appreciate that. So now we've kind of talked about it as rules. It could be brought as a statute. Does anybody have a recommendation that it also be put in the statutes? Anybody care? I'm not seeing an affirmative recommendation. Senator Office.
Mr. Chairman, I'll answer anyone care. Yes, I care. I don't want it in the statute right now. I think our rules is appropriate.
All right. So we'll leave it at that. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. One thing I did miss as we went down this journey today is we're going to get an update on Capitol Square. At some point, don't let me leave before we approve the minutes, which we didn't do when we started up. So I think we're to you, Senator Bill Landon. Your chance to star as update from Capitol Square exhibit and wayfinding.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Always happy to do this. We continue to try to finish up the work that we were entrusted with. We were created back in 2021, the Capitol Square Exhibit and Wayfinding Subcommittee, which answers up through the State Building Commission and through the Legislative Management Council. It's really been an honor to serve on that committee, to be honest, and to do the work that we did, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 members of the legislature and 3 members of the executive branch who serve on that subcommittee. But I've said many times that I think the strength of that collective effort is in the fact that we have all of our agency folks involved as ex officio members of that subcommittee. As a chairman, the Senate serves as the chair of that committee because the two representatives make up the 3 legislators who are there. And as the chairman, I have always included all of those individuals from our state agencies as equal members. They don't necessarily have a vote on everything, but boy, have they provided incredible insight and so much effort to what is now in the state capitol building. So we had another busy year. We continue. I'll back up to just say one of the things that we advocated for, you might remember, is a Capitol curator position to take care of all of the historical documents that we now have in the facility. All of the work that we've done on the first floor, we now have a curator who can pay attention to that. We are in the process of finishing up that Capitol Gallery, which was renamed by the subcommittee's recommendation on up through those 2 bodies. And I'm really excited, Mr. Chairman. Once we make some modifications to that area outside of the auditorium and outside of the new civics lab, I think it's going to be spectacular. And with the help of that curator that I just aforementioned, I think we're going to be able to bring exhibits into the state capitol that'll just wow everybody. I'm really looking forward to that day. It's going to be a neat thing. We also, have some other work to finish up. We are in the process of finishing up the broadcast studio that was referenced by our PBS folks today. With a media background, I'm pretty excited about that as well. I think it's going to mean a great deal. We are working on the gallery, as I said, and we've got some work to do in the custodial break room. And then finally, we're kind of transitioning out of the Capitol wayfinding and historical exhibit work. We're coming to the end of that. We're just about finished up with the work on the Capitol itself, Mr. Chairman. Always lots and lots of things that can be recommended by folks, including this select committee, for inclusion in the future. For example, the lunch rooms, several of the rooms throughout the state capitol really don't have any artwork in them. They just simply weren't included because we didn't have the budget to do everything that you could dream of to do in the state capitol. So there's still work to be done, but we're very, very close to finishing. We come now to the effort to stand up work on some acoustics that we were entrusted with, a year, 2 years ago. It's interesting, Mr. Chairman, we continue to run into the session, and that can really have an impact on physical plant work. many times we've had to say, well, we'd like to have that done, but we can't start until after the session. So some of that work that we're finishing up on the acoustic front is going to have to start after this next session, and we're very hopeful that that'll all kind of finish up as well. So I tried to keep that, Mr. Chairman, at kind of a 10,000 foot view, not 30, but 10. Be happy to talk about any details or any additional things that the committee would like to hear from us on. Really want to thank Wendy and the staff. They've been extraordinary throughout. Rihanna Davidson, worked with us for 3+ years, 4+ years on it, and has moved on to other pursuits. But she and Miss Matson have been critical to the success of that subcommittee. As we have brought work to the State Building Commission and to our Management Council, we have been well received. Again, I think that's because we've worked very hard on substance and have really paid attention to every single detail as we've gone along. And it's been a work of love, and hopefully it will continue and be an asset to both branches of the government. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator, and be remiss in not thanking you in the bigger picture too. You've given a lot of your life to this project and appreciate that. We do have Ms. Matson on the agenda too. Wendy, did you have anything you wanted to add? She's declining to steal any of your thunder there, Senator. So we are very grateful. I've noticed as I get older, I notice the acoustics a little bit more. I don't know if that's been your experience too, Senator, but I can see the gray hairs there, one or two. So any questions for Senator Landon or Ms. Matson? Any questions? Certainly, we have, the Capitol is more accessible to our citizens. It is more informative. These are very, very good things. And I'm not sure I like the walls that we have in there for separating legislators from everything else, but really it's been an amazing job. A lot of thought, 3 separate branches of government, moving parts all the way around, extremely intricate, overlapping areas to sort through, and you guys should be totally commended.
Well,
Senator Landon.
Just to add to that, thank you for that. I did want to drop back just this past year. Some of you attended as we opened the Civics Lab. That was a vision of about a decade ago when work began on the state capitol. Speaker Harshman and Senate President Nicholas and so many of them contributed to that vision, and it was really really a terrific day to open up that facility, and what that will do to the visitors of the Capitol, which oftentimes are the young people. And we really have targeted them with that facility. And if you haven't spent any time in there, I sure commend that to you. I think work is being completed on some materials that we can provide to the students when they come to the Capitol. And again, Ms. Madsen can give you details on that, but she's working on those, finishing those up. But just wanted to say a few more words about that civics lab. It's just it's a terrific facility, and I think will make the learning experience even more robust for our 4th graders and other students who come down.
Excellent. Excellent. Anything else? Any questions for Senator Landon or Ms. Matson or anybody on staff? I'm not seeing anything. Let's take care of the minutes at this point in time so we make sure we don't forget. I'd love to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Got it
Second.
by Rothman. Second by Co-Chairman Weber. Any discussion, any amendments, any proposed changes? All in favor, raise your hand. Got everybody, I think. Thank you very much. Minutes are approved. Is there anything else to come before the committee? Is there any, Mr. Obrecht?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple points for the committee to consider. It is the 4-year cycle, not only laptops, but also of updates to the Wyoming Manual of Legislative Procedure by its terms. Management Council and then the full legislature need to adopt any changes to it. We are working on internally on updating references and other changes to the Manual of Legislative Procedures. I sent out an email to all legislators earlier this summer asking for their input. If members of this committee have any input on that, please let me know. Management Council hasn't set a date for their fall meeting, but I assume it will be probably second week of December-ish. And then same with the rules of the House, rules of the Senate, and joint rules. If you have any changes you want us to present on that to Management Council for the forwarding to the Rules Committee and onto the both bodies, please get those to either Tamara or I, and we'll get them drafted up for you.
Okay, everybody got that? Any questions? Any other thing to come before the committee? Any public comment? Any public comment online? Anything anybody would like to say? All right. And entertaining a motion to adjourn. We've completed our work for the year. But we'd be happy to be informally on any circulation of any things you would like our input on. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got it by Rothfuss.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand. See you guys later. Thanks a lot. We're adjourned.